The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy.
You are listening to Canary Cry News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Today is June 22nd, the year of our Lord 2020, episode 211. And this week, Cancel Christ. And I'm your silly goose, Basil.
And this is Grumpy Gonz. Welcome to the podcast where we talk about biblical news about tomorrow, brought to you today. And on this episode, we're going to prove Daniel 7:21 and Revelation 13:7. What do you think, Basil?
Let's get biblical.
Yeah.
Good times, Gonz. You made it through the weekend. You have a good weekend there, pal?
I did. Good Father's Day weekend. Got to spend time with the family.
And, that's very fun. That's very exciting. My cats did not give me a Father's Day.
A Father's Day.
It's 2020. I'm told I'm supposed to be celebrating Father's Day as a good old cat dad. You know, I'm a good millennial. But alas, my cats did not get the update, the Facebook update.
I was told the solar/lunar eclipse on the summer solstice was supposed to shoot down some space energies that's supposed to usher in something. I really didn't notice anything, and I think out here in the United States, the whole thing happened while we were in bed. So maybe we woke up and we are all Nephilim now. The
solar eclipse happened at nighttime. Yeah, that doesn't work out. I will say we did have I believe a producer of the show email us yesterday, wanting us to do a show yesterday to counteract the magical effects of the solar eclipse and those harnessing the power for ill means. But we got the message a little bit too late, but I believe that, those who need to be protected will continue to be so.
Yeah, that was Incarnate Unlimited who messaged us. So sorry about that with the late notice. Well, at least us getting the notice later. But
good eye.
Good eye,
though. Your instincts, good instincts.
Yes, and thank you for the message and keeping us, abreast of all the things going on around the world. Because you and I, we're just a couple of goofballs.
Just a couple, a couple of guys doing a podcast. I'm looking at the chat here. This is nice. We got Adam42 in here in the chat on Twitch here every episode. I think Adam42 might get the award for watching the most amount of live streams. So there you go. It's not an official award, but nice little nod there. Island Girl Lynn is in the chat. Our first ever Dame. Thanks very much for being here. And of course, Flippy Official. We got to get Flippy in here. Mm-hmm. Okay. Any more updates or anything?
I don't think so. Nothing really in terms of updates. We got a lot to get to today, so we should probably get going.
Yes. Yeah. So let's jump right in. Let's start with Flippy Update.
Flippy Update.
Do you want fries with that?
Uh-oh. Gonz has his harmonica today.
I'm not a harmonicaist.
Some live music into the thing here. I'll bust out my harmonica here later in this show. We'll have a little harmonica battle.
You're actually like a real harmonica player. I'm just an amateur goof on.
It's just been so long. Let me just.
I think my favorite part is your googly eyes moving back and forth when you do that.
Wiggling back and
forth.
Wiggling,
yeah. Okay.
That's what they're there for. Okay, so we're here on geekwire.com. Geekwire.com. Sorry, got to get into the mood here. I tried to get all my show burps out first.
Good.
But we'll see what happens. The article, the headline reads, Perseverance rover will go to Mars with a monument to COVID-19 medical teams. Perseverance, as we've talked about before, is the next planned Mars rover. So let's see what they have to say. The article reads, when NASA's Perseverance rover lands in Mars's Jezero crater, next February, it'll be carrying a tribute to the medical community and their work to quell the coronavirus pandemic. A 3x5-inch aluminum plaque showing planet Earth being supported by the ancient staff and serpent symbol of the medical profession will grace the left side of the rover chassis.
The left side. Those leftists. Always the left side.
It's all messaging. Oh, those lefties.
That's the caduceus symbol there, the staff and serpent.
Yeah. Do we need to do a little refresher on that for everybody?
I mean, I don't have anything pulled up, but yeah.
Don't have anything pulled up, but no. Yeah. Anyway, so there you go. We got the staff and serpent symbol going up on the Mars rover as a paying homage to the medical profession here on Earth. So if any Martians find it, then they'll just know. They'll know what's going on. I feel like that would be more confusing to Martians than anything else, but. That's okay. Let's see if this article has anything more important to say. Matt Wallace, the mission's deputy project manager at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, said the plaque recognizes the sacrifices that have been made by medical workers and also by members of the mission team who had to go to extraordinary lengths to keep the $2.4 billion project on track for launch as early as July 20. Quote, the community and the country and around the globe, everybody had to deal with this, Wallace said today during a briefing about the mission. I asked the team a couple of months ago if they would like to do something to symbolize and mark these challenges that we faced, and they designed something that we call a COVID-19 perseverance plate. So there you go. COVID in space.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chili, in the chat. So yeah, I mean, obviously, it's an interesting symbol, the staff and serpent, regularly used for the medical profession, in all sorts of ways, with biblical ties as well as occult ties. Yeah. So there's a lot of it's a heavier thing than just kind of putting another little badge on the rover. But maybe we'll go deeper into that. If you need to look into it, I recommend going down the rabbit hole of the both biblical and occult references of the staff and serpent emblem there.
And it was originally the rod of Asclepius, I think, with one serpent, and they switched it up to the two serpents at some point. And the World Health Organization uses it. It's and yeah, it does have biblical ties. It goes back to Moses and the staff in the desert and things like that. So it's, the occult, they always love to do, take things that are somewhat biblical and twist it around. But also just to mention here, NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory is a kind of a giveaway as well. We know that Jack Parsons, the occultist who did a lot of rituals, was the guy who started JPL. And of course, NASA, Never a Straight Answer, connection with the Nazi scientists, Project Paperclip, brought over all those occult scientists to start the space mission. And, it's all connected, tied in. We've covered a lot of those things over the years, so we won't dive into it on the news talk here. But
Mr. Eyes 617 on the Twitch chat said, thought it might be a statue of a nurse dancing. I thought that might be pretty good, like a dancing TikTok nurse, Yeah,
real apropos. Maybe the Martians would like that more. Although here's the thing:
we should put a little mask on the Perseverance rover.
If you guys were watching the Trump speech back on Saturday in Tulsa, he did mention something very interesting, and I have it clipped here. We're going to play the clip, and then I'll play the ISO here.
We will launch a new age of American ambition in space, and the United States will be the first nation to land on Mars. Good program.
There you go. So we got
everybody was saying how humdrum that speech was, but he got pretty worked up there for a second.
He got worked up, man.
Well, this is a new age.
We will launch a new age.
A new age. The United States.
So all you Trump lovers, I don't know why he's launching the new age. I mean, I thought he was against the whole Illuminatus.
Very suspicious.
But there he is, launching the new age. So
that's right.
There you go.
Okay. What do you got? Any updates for me?
We do have an interesting update here. It's a kind of a It's kind of a COVID psyop thing, so let's do it.
NSA style hybrid war psyops.
Psyops.
COVID. And this is one of those things that we really don't have an article for it, but I first saw this tweeted out by Adam Curry, the podfather, the man who is responsible for the podcast as a form of media, or at least one half of it.
We also had it sent to us by a listener, as well as I see people are already chatting about it in the chat. So
good. Adam Curry tweeted out this morning, type this into Google, any 3-digit number plus new cases like this, 333 new cases. And he explains what we see here is how news, quote unquote, is created. All results are generated by government sources. Many stories are automatically generated and parrot the government news release. In effect, bots. Agencies are creating minute-by-minute news releases. The media is amplifying them. And what he's basically talking about, if you go to Google, and we're going to do a little live example here, and I'm going to pick 666 because, 666.
Just because. Just randomly, no reason.
Which is interesting because it's already the first thing, right when I typed in 666 in Google, the first pop-up suggestion was new cases. And you hit it, and you're going to see articles like from this one from June 3rd. Virginia sees 666 new coronavirus cases. Ukraine adds 666 new cases. And let's try a different number. We did the 322. Remember, we talked about that a few weeks ago, but we didn't realize that it was a lot more prevalent here. 322. Let's pick another number, Basil. Let's try 567.
Literally any number.
Any three. I think it works for some 4-numbered sequences. Random 567. Okay, here we go. 567 new positive cases. West Virginia, 567 new cases. So the point being,
and here's the thing, I spent about 20 minutes doing this, and here was the thing that really got me is, if you choose just like a dozen random 3 digits, you go 322, 356, 621, you just go through and kind of spread them out like that. You'll get a positive a page of positive results. But the thing that really got me was I started going in order. So I'd do like 525, 526, 527, 528. Every single number that you type in, 3-digit number, there's news reports about that many new cases of COVID. Very suspicious, and yes, obviously being created just as it's not as it's being searched, but that's it's a crazy thing. You can sit there and do it for an hour, and every number you try will come up. In the first 3 results will be that exact number of COVID cases, somewhere around the world. Now, of course, in large number theory, you put in when you think about how many municipalities and news agencies there are throughout the world, you can say, okay, there's probably a lot of numbers being reported, but it's really suspicious. I mean, literally any number you type in, there is a news article about that many people catching COVID. It looks like coincidence.
Yeah. Most of it works between the numbers 100 and 999. There have been a few instances where the thousands work, but it's just it is suspicious. And I think Adam is right here that there's some kind of aggregate thing going on here where literally they try to cover every number.
Yes.
There are articles are being pumped out every single day regarding COVID. And I think it's just obvious that this is part of the...
Of course, people in the chat are saying, don't use Google. Well, I'm not using Google. I'm using DuckDuckGo. But also, it's not about us finding these numbers. It's about the world. It's exposing the system of, Googling things. And that's what the world uses. So, that's why we're looking at it like that.
Yeah. So there you go. That's just a quick update from the interwebs. Something to keep in mind, something to be aware of, because we're battling the algos. We're at war with the algos, and that's kind of the new warfare.
I got another update for you on. It's about old hairy legs.
Got hairy legs. Got hairy legs.
Still one of my favorite
Old Hairy
ones.
Legs, Uncle Joe, Sleepy Joe, whatever you know him by. I had something that came across my Facebook feed, and it was a picture. I don't know if you can pull it up there, but it was a picture of an article, and the title is Integrating Black Students Would Turn Schools into a Jungle, a Racial Jungle. And then there's a picture of Joe Biden there and a quote attributed to him that says, "I don't want my children to grow up in a jungle, a racial jungle."
Oh, no.
Which is, of course, very naughty. He can't be saying stuff like that.
No.
But, of course, I thought, okay, well, did he really say this? Is it taken out of context? What's the deal? So I just searched the quote. And, of course, the first thing that pops up is Snopes. Snopes popping up, of course, every time you search.
Tellers.
The truth tellers of our age.
The fact-checking giant that is Snopes. Yes.
Of course, good luck finding something on Snopes that says anything negative about Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden or really any Democrat. But I was very surprised, Gons. Snopes.com. Did Joe Biden say he didn't want his kids growing up in a racial jungle? Well, Snopes says that is a correct attribution.
What?
I know. I couldn't believe it. I was planning on bringing this Snopes article as just to pick at him a little bit more, because of course they would defend Uncle Joe. But here we go. The Snopes article reads, in the 1970s, when Senator Joe Biden was a vocal opponent of busing as a means for desegregating public schools, and that record haunts him in his bid to secure the 2020 Democratic presidential nomination. In early March 2020, readers asked Snopes to verify a quote in 1977 in which Biden, then a U.S. senator representing Delaware, allegedly expressed fear that desegregation, if not done in an orderly way, could result in his children growing up in a, quote, racial jungle with tensions having built so high that it is going to explode at some point. The quote was initially uncovered by Daria Roithmeyer, a law professor at the University of Southern California, in July 2019. But as Biden emerged from Super Tuesday on March 3rd, 2020, as a potential frontrunner for the nomination, news stories containing the quote circulated anew. Among stories readers widely shared was July 15th, 2019 Business Insider story that reported, quote, former Vice President Joe Biden is facing increased scrutiny over his record on busing and racial issues. And this week, old comments resurfaced in which he said in 1977 that busing for the purpose of desegregation would cause his children to grow up in a racial jungle. The quote is accurate, as reported, and then reads in full. Just for integrity purposes, we'll read it in full. Unless we do something about this, my children are going to grow up in a jungle. The jungle being a racial jungle with tensions having built so high that it's going to explode at some point. We've got to make some move on this. We contacted the Biden campaign for comment, but received no response in time for publication. Biden made the remark in 1977 during a hearing about busing school children in order to desegregate public schools. As the New York Times reported in a detailed delineation of Biden's history with busing, Biden at the time had emerged as the Democrat Party's crusader against busing. Now listen to this. Taking the same side as segregationists. Biden joined up with Jesse Helms, the segregationist senator from North Carolina, to offer his own anti-busing amendment to that year's education spending bill. Biden's advocacy made it safe for other Democrats to oppose busing, the Times reported. Times further reported that Biden sided with Helms in 1975 when the latter proposed to strip the federal government's power to withhold funding from school districts that refused to comply with racial equality measures. And then it goes on. So there you go. But, Biden continues. It's nice to know that he's been putting his foot in his mouth for 50 years now. This is not a new thing. There's all this talk about him, being, getting older, suffering from not really knowing what's going on or where he is or what to say and what's okay to say and what's not okay to say. But evidence shows that he's been on the wrong side of history for at least 50 years.
You know why I know we're all doomed here, especially believers? Because our choices here for November are literally, we have on one end,
got hairy legs. Got hairy legs.
And look, I get it. It's a little better, it's better to be this.
We will launch a new age.
But I don't know, man.
Is it? these I don't like these choices, man.
I don't like them either, but it feels like the same type of thing going on from last time.
It does feel like that.
And speaking of which, thank you for the update, Joe.
Yeah, Biden's. A little update on Joe. It's this putting his foot in his mouth thing is not new. This has been going on for 50 years. Now, speaking of putting your foot in your mouth, I got one more update, and then we can get into some stuff. Now, we talked about Trump's ad getting pulled from Facebook and other social media places. I think specifically Facebook for this one, where he had an ad pulled that featured an upside down red triangle, which was pulled because that was considered, a symbolism of hate, referring to Nazi concentration camps. Mm-hmm. So I looked into it a little bit. It didn't take much looking, but just a little bit of looking. And I looked up a list of Nazi concentration camp badges. And right here, now they use triangles a lot. There's red triangles, green triangles, blue triangles, purple triangles. They all mean different things. There's a way of identifying the prisoners in the concentration camps. Now, the red upside down triangle, which is the one that was used in that ad, refers to political prisoners. So the political prisoners of the Nazis. And here it is listed the Jews, trade unionists. So, but sort of, in American politics, these are all left-leaning Democrat type of people. But then it ended with this. It also signified Freemasons.
Interesting.
Ding, ding, ding. That's right. Yeah. So Freemasons were included in this group identified with red triangle. So I thought that was very interesting and worth mentioning on the show.
Very good. Yeah. I mean,
there you go. Nothing much else to say about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Still weird.
Yeah.
But maybe some of the Freemasons in Facebook or at Facebook were upset. Maybe they were triggered.
Yes. Don't be mean to our communists and our Freemasons.
Okay, we're going to get into a whole bunch of stories about canceling culture.
Cancel culture.
Ooh, that's a fun one.
Yeah, and let's see. The first story I have here is the Courier Daily. Hashtag Twitch Blackout trends on Twitter. Wednesday, June 24th will be Twitch Blackout Day. Basil?
Yeah.
What's
this
up with
was
that?
Interesting
The
for
hashtag,
us. We've obviously been pushing people to Twitch for the past 3 months or so.
I know, all you Twitch people out there. See what happens here. The hashtag Twitch Blackout is trending on Twitter, in which people are requesting streamers and the viewers not to use Twitch on June 24th, Wednesday. People want the streaming platform to take a note of abuse, racism, sexual harassment, assault, and rape. It's got pretty intense. Mine tweet mentioning similar sentiments there. After analyzing the tweets from this hashtag, one user shared that Twitch should itself ban some offensive words instead of the creators. As per Well Dang It's tweet, there are certain inappropriate racist usernames that should be banned.
Yeah, well.
Going after... As soon as we get here, of course, this
don't have
happens.
a racist username. That seems pretty easy. Just don't have a racist username. You should be fine.
I know. Some people are ready to uninstall the app from their smartphone just to avoid accidental opening of the app. While some creators on the streaming platform have canceled the scheduled stream for Wednesday to support the movement. And here's one guy, I'm Martin Fox, saying he won't be streaming on Wednesday.
Yeah, dang. I mean, Wednesday is a show day for us, man.
I know.
I don't know. It sounds like competition is going to be low.
Yeah. The day Canary Cry News Talk took over Twitch. Other than this, few streamers have committed to postpone their Wednesday stream to some other day. Oh, other than this. Okay, that makes sense. I am Brandon said in a tweet, I plan not to stream on Wednesday for Twitch Blackout. If you need to stream, do it. I want to stand by my fellow Twitch coworkers and users. Apart from this, some users of Twitch are saying that the content creators will suffer if they don't do the streaming. Seeing this, XOXO Carly tweeted, if you want to hit Twitch in the wallet, donate directly to streamers instead of gifting sub bits.
Yeah, that's not a bad way to do it.
And I like how this article has no mention of what the actual reason for Twitch Blackout really is.
Well, I actually have some minor information on that, and I couldn't quite find any supporting documents, but I do know some other people in the business. And to keep it brief, Saturday evening there was some Me Too action going on with some Twitch affiliated businesses. Nothing within Twitch that I know of, but I know some businesses that sort of surround Twitch one in particular had a Me Too moment, and that was apocalyptic for that company. And I don't have a direct connection between this Twitch blackout and that, incident, but I think that it might have something to do with it.
So you're saying that it's not anything within the walls of Twitch, it's the Twitch affiliate type of companies that work with them type of deal?
I'm not sure. Now, I do know we have at least a listener or two who are involved in the industry. So if they want to give me some more information and give me permission to talk about it, maybe I'll talk about that on Wednesday. That would be, I guess, I could talk about it on Twitch Blackout Day.
Yeah, we can literally be the beacon of truth.
Yes,
Twitch Blackout
the news. Day. Yeah, but from what I can tell so far, I believe it has to do with some Me Tooing. Some people got Me Too'd, and so it's caused quite an issue with the Twitch community. I can learn and see what I can figure out, and we'll talk about it on Wednesday.
All right. Well, I noticed it trending too, and I thought, oh boy, here we go. We're just getting everybody over on Twitch, and Twitch is going down.
I know.
With the whole shit.
Of course. Of course, we're going to get. We spend 3 months getting 1,500 extra people to join the service, and then suddenly we will be liable for the issues going on.
Where's Bezos?
We'll see what happens.
Is Bezos going to come out and damage control some of this with his robot dog army?
That's a great question. I have a feeling he won't. I have a feeling he will try to distance himself as much as he can. And, if it's not a problem within Twitch, then that's fine. That's his prerogative. But if the Twitch service itself has some sort of liability or responsibility, then, we'll see what he does.
Okay. Well, we got more updates on the canceling front here.
Cancel culture.
I will say just a little public service announcement. Gons, occasionally your voice turns into a robot on my side. So if other people are experiencing that on the stream, it's not because, it's probably not because of Twitch or YouTube or wherever you're listening. I think it's a Skype issue. How do I sound over there for you?
You
Still
sound fine to me, and
okay.
Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe it's my download speeds or something. We'll see.
Yeah, well, we're all ready to become cyborgs over here. Just kidding. Okay, so I'm going to look at this tweet first, and then we'll get into a story to sort of back it up here. But there's a tweet that went kind of viral, and it's from @JoeLuaman, and the part of this is just triggering the conservative right-wing type of people here. But let me just read through some of this, okay?
Okay, hold on. I'm sorry. I just got so distracted. I'm sure we'll give a shout out to this person during the first break, but there is a user in the chat named Daddy Basil's little boy.
Oh, man. Oh, no, you're having children now through the Twitch.
Yeah, now I get to have a Father's Day now.
Oh, there you go.
Daddy Basil's little boy. Thank you for being here, son. Oh my gosh. Okay, sorry to interrupt. Continue.
Weird. Okay, so yes, this person said in a tweet, since conservative Christians keep coming at me here, and she lists like a bunch of stuff here. First, she says, I am a Christian and I believe proselytizing is violence against another. I am a Christian and I believe LGBTQ plus people are divine and should lead us. I am a Christian and I learn a lot from people who do not share my faith. I am a Christian and I don't go to church. I am a Christian and I don't believe the Bible is the word of God. That one triggered me. How do you call yourself a Christian and say that? I mean, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't know. It's interesting.
A bunch of other things.
Wide range.
They're
of identifying, Gons. You can identify it as whatever you want.
Yeah, sure. And then there was one more thing that she said that didn't make any sense to me. She goes through a whole bunch of stuff here. You know, a lot of the whole leftist type of thinking here. And actually, I think my tweet just sort of summarizes it, where I stated, let's see if I can find it here. I lost it. Where's my tweet on it? Here it is. I quoted her saying, I am a Christian and I don't believe the Bible is the word of God. And I put an eye roll because eye roll. And then she said, I'm a Christian and I do as I please.
Ooh.
And I said, and I added, AKA, do as thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, quoted by occultist Aleister Crowley, because that's what he was basically saying.
Right.
And the whole point here, the label or the title Christian really doesn't mean anything if the way she's defining a Christian is what Christian means now. Or doesn't mean. It doesn't mean anything. I don't know
what the definition is. What is the definition?
I mean, technically, it's supposed to be a follower of Christ. That's really the basic sort of definition of. And I get it. You know, Catholics are called Christians. I understand that it's a loaded phrase, and it's been a long time coming in terms of the title not meaning really what it meant. But at this point, if you're going to have this discussion, and we're going to cancel everything here, it doesn't being a Christian in this sense doesn't mean anything. This person doesn't really stand. And look, some of the other societal issues, whatever, the LGBTQ stuff, the white supremacy stuff, like she can have her opinions on that and whatever. You can be a liberal type of Christian.
Course, you know, if you want to go from the actual biblical narrative, yes, white supremacy and racism is condemned by the Bible.
Right. And I understand, love your enemies. There's a lot of like biblical things, but if you're going to sit there and say, I'm a Christian, I don't believe the Bible is the word of God, what are you standing on? Like the Bible says that he is the word.
It's cultural at that point.
It's just a cultural title. It's just a phrase or a I don't know. It loses its meaning, and that's part of the whole 1984, loss of all words and history and all that kind of stuff going on here.
Yeah, and the de-defining of vocabulary.
Yeah, and there's an article that I want silencing tactics are not. Following the cultural upheaval that began in the 1960s, the conservative Christians bathed in a sense of loss. Themselves, leaders of the newly formed religious right argued a kind of Christian cultural separatism in which all that was deemed evil will be cut off from all that was deemed holy. Among their enemies were liberal politicians, social justice activists, feminist professors, abortion rights advocates, secularists, pornographers, humanists, atheists, Hollywood moguls, civil rights leaders, working moms, and stay-at-home dads. I don't know. I've never really seen working mom and stay-at-home dads as being canceled in that sense, but I get it. There was that sentiment especially the South there. Throughout the 80s and 90s, church youth groups coordinated book burnings and music bonfires to purge their world of evil art. On any given night of the week, televangelists and Christian activists could be found on cable news attacking their enemies by name and blaming them for the moral decay of America. Which, I gotta say, there is something to be said about that. This is written by Jonathan Merritt, who's a pretty staunch leftist, and he's more of a progressive Christian, if you will, New York Times bestseller and all that kind of stuff. And I've had some interactions with him on Twitter, but he makes this point about the moral decay being like, oh, they're blaming the moral decay on these types of things. And I would argue, yeah, like a lot of those things did decay our morals and values at large and desensitized the public, to accept more and more of that stuff. So I wouldn't say that that's inaccurate, but it keeps going here. Evangelicals tried to level best to smear and shame any person or organization who didn't behave or believe appropriately in order to forcibly craft a society according to their Christian values. When the target of their wrath wasn't vulnerable to their smears, they used the foremost tool of cancel culture, the boycott. In 1997, the 16 million member Southern Baptist Convention boycotted the Walt Disney Company, which they perceived to be too gay-friendly. And again, it's like, okay, there's a point being made by the Southern Baptist Convention that is absolutely, I think, correct. Not just the gay thing, but just, the sexualization of the young people.
Of course, Disney has a long history of sexualizing cartoons for children,
right,
even in subliminal ways. I mean, a very interesting little rabbit hole to go down, and that would be enough.
And Walt Disney's occult ties and some of his things, there's plenty. It doesn't have to be the gay thing, although I get it. That's sort of the surface level thing they went after. 2 years later, Jerry Falwell Sr., founder of the Moral Majority, famously led an effort to boycott the Teletubbies, a children's television program, because he got an inkling that Tinky Winky character was covertly gay.
I remember that. Do you remember that?
I remember the show being disturbing. I didn't really watch it as a kid or anything, but
definitely a weird show. But in a long history of weird children's shows, I remember is because the purple Teletubby carried a purse. And suddenly we had to cancel the Teletubbies.
Was it before the man purse was really a thing, or?
Oh yeah, no, man, the Tinky Winky or whatever his name was. He was a pioneer of the man purse, the man bag.
Did I offend the YouTube channel? Because I see that there's like 300 people that just logged off YouTube on the Face Like the Sun channel. Oh well, whatever.
I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter. Watch your mouth. Get canceled, Gons.
Getting canceled by YouTube. Yep. So it's somebody said YouTube cut the stream off. It says the stream ended 82 minutes ago. Well, fantastic. Thank you, YouTube.
We haven't even been going for 82 minutes. Wow, YouTube used the time machine to cancel us. Too far in the past. Well, there you go. Another reason to subscribe over on twitch.tv/Canary Cry Radio for just such an occasion.
Yeah.
So there you go. Let's see if I can pop the link into the chat here. We'll see if I can do it with my robo hands. All right,
a few more paragraphs here. In 2012, the evangelical group 1 Million Moms, part of the American Family Association, led a boycott of JCPenney after comedian Ellen DeGeneres, an out lesbian, was named the department store chain's spokesperson. White evangelicals' cancel culture did not just target those outside the camp. If a member of the community dared to deviate from the what the majority called orthodoxy, that person too risked being run out of town. Beginning in the 1970s, a group of Southern Baptists led by now disgraced preacher and seminary president Paige Patterson and other conservative leaders sought to purge their denomination of any hint of liberal theology. Seminary professors, church employees, and pastors lost their jobs or were shamed out of the convention during this denominational civil war, known as the conservative resurgence or the fundamentalist takeover. Depending on your point of view, the coup Patterson led was a massive exercise of cancel culture. Only true believers allowed. Anyone who crossed the masses was a cancel culture involved the public shaming of author Rob Bell, a former megachurch pastor who dared to question whether non-Christians went to hell after they died. Strictly, Bell was not canceled, but farewelled. The patent online move was simply to bid farewell Rob Bell next to a link to his apostasy. Suddenly, anyone who was friends with Bell, owned books by Bell, or even dared to quote Bell's earlier work was at risk of being canceled. Books no longer welcome in Christian bookstores due to their support. Great Awakening has flipped the script. Conservative Christians and their political allies quickly set up a howl of fury. It kind of goes on here. There's a little bit more. Let's see. And Jonathan Merritt states here that they are reaping what they have sowed. Evangelicals' boycott for thee, but not for me approach is not just drenched in irony. It's a cautionary tale about a central idea taught in most major religions. What goes around often comes back around. And again, not agreeing entirely with the post here, other than to say that, yes, evangelicals were sort of the model cancel culture types. And
the OG cancelers.
Yeah, and certainly the tactics that they used are being practiced now precisely to go after Christians and evangelicals and everything else. And really, it's just, to me, it's just a culture shift. You know, it's who is really the spokesperson or the public front of culture. And if you think about the 60s, 70s, 80s, counterculture was, you know, the sex, drugs, rock and roll. And you know, it was all the stuff that was against the mainstream whitey-tighty culture. Well, now that that's flipped.
Swinging back and forth. And that's definitely a place that we are at in America today, as well as Christianity and pretty much in every sector of life. But American politics, as well as the sort of social atmosphere of America life. That's one thing that, you know, for me personally, when you recognize that the pendulum is going to swing back and forth every few years and maybe every decade, if we want to be kind of conservative about it, it gets a lot less stressful because it's always swung one way and it always swings back around the other way. And that's just kind of the way that history has been working. Yeah. So this doesn't come as a big surprise to me. But it is interesting, and it's important to note the history of this cancel culture, which is a new term. Remember, you know, the cancel culture, it used to just be called boycotting, where if some company didn't like, you didn't like what some company was doing, you just didn't patronize that company. Now, with the technology where it's at and social media and things like that, it's really turned into cancel culture where you can, you know, if there's a TV show or something that crosses a line that enough people don't appreciate, suddenly all the advertisers will start pulling out. It's like an elevation of the art of war of cancel culture.
Well, it's kind of like, the thing is, cancel culture, in my opinion, from the evangelical side, was more just like a boycott. Whereas with this other cancel culture, it's like you lose your business. It's a lot more intense coming from the other, at least nowadays.
Consequences surely are much higher now than they used to be.
It seems that way. Anyway, I don't know. Yeah. Maybe there are examples that we don't know of cancel culture-ish type stuff that swing the other way. But in terms of just the severity of the consequences, it does seem a little bit more intense now, like the pastor not being able to, you know, feed the homeless because he liked a Trump tweet, as opposed to maybe, you know, some evangelicals doing an exposed sermon about Disney or something. And it's not like Disney lost any business. You know, if anything, they probably got some business from people that hate Christians.
Well, I mean, they may have lost some business, but of course they were able to weather the storm and come back. All you got to do is wait these things out, you know?
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting if we are destined to do this show for another 10 years.
Yeah,
we'll be talking about the same type of stuff, just with the pendulum swinging the opposite direction.
Yeah, we will stay on the narrow path here and try not to swing too much one way or the other.
Yeah, right.
But it doesn't end there, Basil. They want to cancel all kinds of stuff, and the statue thing is another topic.
Well, yeah, lots of very interesting statue stuff.
Cancel culture.
So, let's see here. This is we're going to take this from Newsweek, but of course this is all over the place. Yeah. But this is an interesting thing that came out. Newsweek.com article is titled "Statues of Jesus Are Next. Matt Schlapp decries monument removals." The article reads, Chairman of the American Conservative Union, Matt Schlapp, has denounced the removal of Confederate monuments. Ooh, that's a good way to get canceled, buddy. Mm-hmm. Claiming that statues of Jesus are next. A number of monuments honoring Confederate leaders have recently been defaced and torn down by Black Lives Matter protesters, including those in Virginia, North Carolina, California, Oregon, and Alabama. Quote, "Statues of Jesus are next. It won't end. Pray for the USA," Schlapp tweeted. On Saturday, as a result of a series of protests across the U.S., North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper officially ordered the removal of all Confederate monuments on Capitol grounds. Quote, actually an interesting point. I didn't consider that tearing down protests. Birmingham, Alabama, Mayor Randall Woody, but you need to stand down. Stand down! The vandalized statue was later removed by city officials, prompting the Alabama Attorney General to bring legal action against the mayor for dismantling the monument. The mayor's orders were in breach of the memorial preservation law by 6 seconds while arresting him on suspicion of using a counterfeit $20 bill. Statues around the world have been targeted by protesters in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement, including effigies of men who profited from the Atlantic slave trade. A statue of Christopher Columbus was torn down in Richmond, Virginia, and an effigy of slave trader Edward Colston was taken down in Bristol, England. Following the removal of the Colston statue, the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson said to remove statues is to, quote, to lie about our history. Meanwhile, in New Zealand, authorities took a proactive approach in the city of Hamilton and removed a bronze figure of Captain John Hamilton, a British naval captain who commanded a colonial regiment in the fight against indigenous Maori people in the 1860s before it could be Debbie Ngariwa Packer. Wow, that was hard. Has called for an inquiry to identify and remove the other monuments and place names that symbolize racism and oppression. Quote, "It may not appear racist to some, but those who it affects and to those whose history was most impacted." I don't want to disrespect this person by having such a hard time with their name. We're not saying, first of all, that they should all be pulled down. What we're saying is that there are some that no longer fit who we should be as a nation. So there you go. All accredited guns.
Well, they're happening in other parts of the world. The Pike statue down, which again, goes to show maybe where he's at with everything. But at first I was really kind of like, well, why are they doing this? This is really kind of dumb. And I still think that it's not necessarily appropriate. And really my stance is that, the troubling thing isn't so much I think I put it this way in a tweet. It's the no consequence vandalism that's a little bit more troubling than the subjects that are being torn down. And, if you can tear down a statue of Jesus and, I get, certain Eastern Order, fairly accurate either. So in that sense, it's kind of like...
You don't worship a statue of Jesus. And of course, if you're in the know, if you've listened to this show for long enough, you'll know that the images that we have of Jesus were modeled after the son, what was it? The son of, not the son, the nephew of a pope.
Right.
The sort of beautiful looking...
I had the other day, and somebody in the chat will probably have it, but I'll look it up real quick because I know who you're talking about.
So this is one of the issues, if you don't mind, I'll take it from where you left off there. But you make a great point being, as Christians, we don't worship a statue of Jesus. A statue of Jesus is, a nice thing to have around, but, it shouldn't fit statues with statues of Jesus for obvious troubling reasons. And, I got to say, Guns, I was kind of on the same side for a while, too, with the tearing down of statues. And my stance was kind of like, well, it's a little bit of the 1984 erasing history thing. And, if we erase all of history, we're kind of in danger of repeating it. That was kind of my general stance for a while.
Right.
But... again, I took a second and talked to some people and tried to kind of really understand what the thinking was behind it. And of course, the consequenceless vandalism is its own issue. But, to people who those statues to the south or the Confederacy or
except that
the
giant
history.
Confederate flag that was on your car.
Oh my gosh.
Just kidding.
my sweet muscle car.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, look, I'm a kid who has no connection to the Confederacy or the South. That's not my history. That would make people uncomfortable. In fact, it makes a lot of sense. But what really kind of shifted my perspective and maybe kind of back up and take more of a 30,000 foot view of things is somebody tweeted, and you know what? I should have put the tweet in my notes here, so I'm going to just have to paraphrase it. But basically, the paraphrasing was, Satan himself is a big part of Christian history. If we're just making the historical context of these statues, Satan was a big piece of Christian history.
Right.
But I would be pretty uncomfortable if there were statues of Satan all around, which, and of course, during the whole movement of taking down the statues of the Ten Commandments, there's been Baphomet statues that go up and stuff like that, and it is uncomfortable, and we don't like it. There's the Moloch statue that went up at the Vatican, all sorts of stuff that, if I had a chance, if situations were reversed and there's a mob of people pulling down the Baphomet statue, I probably wouldn't be complaining so much. But that being said, if there's a statue of Satan in my town or near my church or in my church, God forbid, I probably would be for tearing that down. History be darned as well. So it did kind of give me a little bit wider of a picture of what we're dealing with here.
Right.
And again, not a big fan of mob mentality, not a big fan of erasing history. But it is an understandable idea. Now, again, there's the criminal aspect and things like that. I kind of, these mayors being like, "Yo, this is unsafe. Stop destroying things."
We'll take them down. Let's just do it safely. Let's
right. Yeah. Just let me take it down for you. No need to put any lives at risk here. So I think that's a better way to do it. If the statue is going to come down, let's use a crane, people, not a Prius and a tow strap.
Right. So Caesar. Yeah, go ahead.
Just to reiterate quick, just really quickly, I am uncomfortable with this Newsweek article and this Matt Schlapp guy kind of equating statues of Confederate leaders and soldiers and things like that with statues of Jesus. I don't think those two things should be equated even in America. Have you ever seen a statue of Jesus in America?
I think I've seen some. Yeah.
Have you? I have not seen, maybe like outside of a church or something, but I've never seen a public statue of Jesus.
I think there's, especially kind of in your more Catholic places, I've seen little statues and nothing huge.
Yeah,
sure. You're talking about big statues?
Iconography, that kind of stuff.
Okay, yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Iconography is one thing, but I guess you're right. Yeah. A huge statue is a whole other thing.
This is why I love having the chat. Seeking the Kingdom 76. It was Caesar Borgia is who the
Borgia.
image of the European-looking Jesus was modeled after.
Caesar Borgia, but also people in the catacombs of Rome skinned Jesus well before Caesar Borgia and the whole thing there. So there's some truth.
I also do want to bring up a quick little thing too, and I need to do a little bit more digging, but I saw it, Christianity being the major religion in the New World when slaves were being brought over. And Christianity is often thought of as the white religion and the American religion and the religion of the oppressors. And actually, there's a lot of physical historical evidence that Christianity was in Africa way before it was, sort of Europeanized. You've got Dead Sea covered. So, there you go. The Christianity was in Africa before it was in America or even many parts of Europe. So something to think about.
Yeah. So there's again, It's one of those things where, you've always heard the phrase like history of what probably happened. And that is still, we just don't know, we just don't know exactly what went on, how much of, and I think that's why it's very fascinating to think of the faith as this, especially the Christian faith, as having to do with, not with genealogies, don't focus on genealogies and that sort of thing, because it doesn't really matter. In the end, it's more of a faith. It's not really dependent on genealogies or the color of your skin or anything like that. But of course, we're at this point in history where everything is being seen through the lens of color, and you can't avoid it at this point because people have that notion. But we have another story here that's right along these lines here. So let's get into that.
I think it is your internet connection that's causing some trouble. So if you have some extra stuff streaming or something, see if you can clean that up a little bit. I will give just some advice to people watching the live stream. If you hover over the video, click the little gear button and go to quality and turn your quality down. It will quit that buffering for you. Just a little tip. Little tech tip. Basil's tech tips.
Oh no, our upload bit rate right now is 3666. And it's stuck on 3666.
Yeah.
Okay, it moved off of
That's
it now.
That's not very good.
This is amp.the Guardian resembles a here for those watching. That's cultural appropriation. We're going to get banned even more.
Oh, no.
The Order of St. Michael and St. George is traditionally awarded to ambassadors and diplomats and senior foreign office officials who have served abroad. It has 3 ranks, the highest of which is Knight Grand Cross, GCMG, followed by Knight Commitment to worldwide protests. A petition calling for the medal to be redesigned has attracted more than 2,000 signatures on change.org. The petition, started by Tracy Reeves, says, quote, "This is a highly offensive image. It is also reminiscent of the recent murder of George Floyd by the white policeman in the manner presented here in this medal. We the undersigned, are calling for this medal to completely redesigned in a more appropriate way and for an official apology to be given for the offense it has given Bumi Thomas." I like that name, Bumi, or Bumi Thomas, a Nigerian British singer, activist, and specialist in visual communication, said the imagery on the badge was clear. It's not a demon. It is a black man in chains with a white, blue-eyed figure standing on his neck. It is literally what happened to George, messaging that reinforces the conquest, subjugation, and dehumanization. Statues are being pulled down and relocated. Emblems and symbols of this nature also need to be redesigned to reflect a more progressive, holistic relationship between Britain and the Commonwealth nations. Sir Simon Woolley, the director and one of the founders of Operation Black Vote, which campaigns for greater representation of ethnic minorities in politics and public life, said he was appalled by the badge. Quote, "The original image may have been of St. Michael slaying Satan, but the figure has no horns or tails and is clearly a black man. It is a shocking depiction." By the way, there's nothing that says that Satan has horns or tails in the Bible, if I'm not mistaken.
No, that's true.
Abroad, he said, we get the notion here. So they're asking to
racist
change
metal.
It up. Racism. White people stepping on a black guy.
This one's really hard for me to care about very much. I do like Get Saved Now in the Twitch chat said UK redesigning medals and the US is redesigning pancake syrup.
You know what? That really sums up where we're at. Really, that's a really good way to summarize our state of the world. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. With everything going on, I can kind of understand it. It's dark figures, and of course, angels and things like that are always shiny and white. But I'm looking at it here. I really don't care much about what they do to this medal. Change it. Do whatever you want.
Yeah, it's just, I think the greater point here is that every little detail of everything ever is going to be redesigned based on color appropriation. Down. And it's, I don't know. Yeah. It's just, instead of, I don't know. Look, what's really important here is not racially, I don't know. Anyway, you know,
but there are people doing that. And again, there are people doing that, but it's usually white people, and that doesn't count.
It doesn't count because you're not.
Doesn't count. Yeah, because you're not.
What about me? I'm trying.
Affected.
What?
I know you're
the yellow
a resident
man.
person of color. Canary Cry News Talk, co-hosted by a person of color. Subscribe now.
Not good enough, apparently, because we're getting buffered by YouTube and everybody else. This is something.
If you have something, keep it going.
Yeah, we got a horrific Nashville Islam nuclear prophecy advertisement. And again,
what?
This is attack Bible. Quote, "We are under conviction to Islam is going to detonate a nuclear device and now it is wrong, period." Turn off a bunch of stuff. I kind of think maybe that's bad though, because they know exactly what my IP address is here and they can target me better.
Find you.
Yeah, but I don't know, maybe not. Let's see. It says here, and by the way, for those of you guys who are struggling with listening and seeing the throttling and everything, you can listen to the whole thing on the RSS feed if you go to canarycrynewstalk.com, and all the show links and everything is there. In fact, you must. Yeah, you should.
You must subscribe to the RSS feed because, if a live stream doesn't happen or we can't live stream or there's some sort of emergency, the shows will always go up on the RSS feed. That means you can show on canarycrynewstalk.com.
Up and there's 300 people gone. So I do think community and our own employees, and that saddens me beyond belief. It is inconsistent with everything the Tennessean as an institution stands and has stood for. Bible prophecy teacher Jeff Pippinger of Future of America told Religion News Service in an email that he wrote one version of the ad, and a friend from Ireland wrote a different version of the ad, which ran earlier in the week. Pippinger said the ministry paid for the ad, which he said was inspired by the work of Ellen White, one of the co-founders of the SDA Church. He said that he and the others behind the ad consider themselves Seventh-day Adventists, quote, "though some such as me have been removed from their membership by the Adventist Church because of our prophetic beliefs." The ad itself also criticizes what it calls the backslidden Seventh-day Adventist Church. The Future for America ministry claims its mission is, quote, "to proclaim the final warning message of Revelation 14 as identified by the prophecies of the Bible and the spirit of prophecy. The end-time fulfillment of Bible prophecy is no longer future, for it is taking place before our eyes," its website claims. Pippinger said that plans to run more ads were now on hold. Quote, we're going to do a mail out, but the printing company that has agreed to print and mail it out backed out based upon counsel from their attorneys. The ad is reminiscent of similar warnings that the late preacher Harold Camping, best known for his 2011 prediction about the end of the world. And that's the thing here. First off, how did the Tennessean even allow this thing to be published, number one? How did it get through the cracks, so to speak?
Right.
But also, number two, it's one of those things where it's almost like let it run. As far as I'm concerned, it's like let it run. Because after July 18th, if there's no nuclear device detonated in Nashville, Tennessee, these people are discredited. And there's evidence
Either
of their
way,
discredit.
Let it run. No matter what happens, you'll see. Now, of course, the fear would be from a government perspective or even whatever. Lots of people perspectives was if you're making a bunch of threats that, Islamists are going to blow up Tennessee
right.
For whatever reason, they would
Islamists.
choose Nashville. Nashville's a great city. Don't get me wrong, but I'm pretty sure there would be a lot of other places they would set off a nuclear device first, unless maybe they just want to take
country music, because that was
oh no,
I didn't not like country growing up, but that was just my own thing going on.
Of course, that was the socially accepted thing when we were kids was country music sucks. Yeah, we're cool.
Yeah, but the other part of this is there is this thing that really bothers me about this type of thing, to discredit in general the study of biblical eschatology. It's been a thing ever since I started looking at biblical eschatology, realizing that oh, wait a minute, there's actually some rational people looking at this. There's legit warnings in the Bible that people should know about. But it's the date setters and the really claims of pinning other
And the extra biblical prophecies are the things that you need to kind of watch out for.
Right. Oh, the Book of Revelation.
Planted by Islamic terrorists.
Right. So.
Wait, no, it didn't say that. Sorry, my bad.
No, it didn't say that. But yeah, point being that, there's a reason why this was pulled, and I actually, agree that it should have been pulled. But also, if it didn't get pulled, they discredit themselves. So, there you go.
There you go. There you go. Let it run. Let's see it. As long as it doesn't start any more uprisings or anything.
Oh, everything's going to start an uprising these days.
Yeah, that's true. Well, okay, let's head over to Reuters.com, Gons. Let's bend it like Beckham a little bit, and still on the topic of religion, but let's swerve into COVID territory.
COVID.
Okay, Reuters.com article titled "Many Countries Successful in COVID Fight Seeing Resurgent Cases."
Are you on the right article? Repurpose some links.
They'll switch it out. They'll switch out the link. Yeah, because I had it open earlier today, and it's gone.
Yeah, I have it here if you want me to.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just take it then, because even if you send me the link, it'll just open up this one.
Yeah, it's a short article too. It's religious events helping to spread coronavirus. WHO says?
Of course.
WHO being the World Health Organization.
Now notice, because what we do here a lot of times is, mainstream news analysis. In the span of this recording, they had the article up that Gons is about to read you. In the span of this recording, they took that article down and put up an entirely new, unrelated article under the same link. So, if we're trying to share this, it's not going to work. Yeah. But we caught you. We caught you, Reuters.
Geneva. Many countries that have been successful in tackling the novel coronavirus are seeing an increase in cases due to religious events and other vulnerable settings like exasperate gatherings. The World Health Organization's Maria van Kerkhoff said, quote, "Any opportunity that the virus has to take hold, it will, because it has a mind, apparently. It is really important that countries are in a position to rapidly detect these cases," she told an online briefing. The WHO's Mike Ryan said that there seem to be new clusters in South Korea linked to clubs, shelters, and amusement parks, and that wastewater findings in northern Italy showed there was a chance the virus was circulating there for anyone before anyone had realized. And that's the article. I thought it was weird that it was such a short article, but no mention of all the social upheaval and the protests and everything going on.
And that's the
religious
weird
people,
thing, man. That's the weird thing about the whole thing is there's no connection with the spike in COVID related to, tens of thousands of people gathering all together, not social distancing, and many of them not wearing masks. That has nothing to do with it. It's those pesky religious people meeting to worship on weekends. They're the ones causing the uptick in the COVID.
It doesn't make any sense. And the article really doesn't make sense. There's not really a clear example of this. The headline is one thing, religious events, but then it mentions, what does it mention? South Korean clubs, shelters, and amusement parks. Right. Maybe they pulled it because they're like, who's the author here? This was written by, it doesn't really have an author written. Or reporting by Stephanie Nebehay, Emma Farge, and John Revel. 3 people wrote this?
It took 3 people at Reuters.
It reported by 3 people, writing by Nick McPhee, edited by Hugh Lawson. There's 5 people on this article. Oh man, yeah, maybe they pulled it because there's another headline there, COVID related.
Yeah, no
but
news
also
there,
related.
but just that's what's the extra stuff going on.
This next one is definitely this next story of the COVID stuff. So,
yeah,
you ready?
Okay, let's do it. ScientificAmerican.com.
COVID.
Okay. Like I said, scientificamerican.com. The article is titled "The Risks of Rushing COVID-19 Vaccine."
Oh, I forgot the second part of the jingles.
Vaccine.
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 Oh, yeah, and I forgot. I can't say vaccine. I have to say the risks of rushing COVID-19 vaccine. The excitement and enthusiasm for a COVID-19 vaccine by the end of 2020 is both palpable and understandable. We all hope for a rapid end to the pandemic, and an effective vaccine would be a surefire solution. Okay. But there are risks that come with a fast-tracked vaccine delivered end of this year, not the least of which are the risks related to the safety of the vaccine itself. Telescoping testing timelines and approval may expose all of us to unnecessary dangers related to the vaccine. While preclinical trials to evaluate the potential safety and efficacy of a vaccine candidates are likely to include tens of thousands of patients, it is still unclear whether that number will be large enough and a trial will last long enough to evaluate safety for a drug that would be administered to so many. The U.S. alone plans to vaccinate hundreds of millions of people with the first successful candidate. One serious adverse event per 1,000 of a vaccine given to 100 million people means harm to 100,000 otherwise healthy people. Aside from questions of safety that attend any vaccine, there are good reasons to be especially cautious for COVID-19. Some vaccines worsen the consequences of infection rather than protect, a phenomenon called antibody-dependent enhancement, or ADE. ADE has been observed in previous attempts to develop coronavirus vaccines. To add to the concern, antibodies typical of ADE are present in the blood of some COVID-19 patients. Such concerns are real. As recently as 2016, Dengavsia intended to what?
Dengavsia
intended to protect children from the dengue virus, increased hospitalizations for children who received the vaccine. Questions also arise around the efficacy of a potential vaccine. The little we know of the current generation of COVID-19 vaccines raises serious questions regarding their ability to protect people from infection. We all know the candidates test to date in non-human primates from two other deadly coronaviruses, those that cause SARS and MERS. On a brighter note, at least some of the candidate vaccines did raise significant immune responses. How that translates to protection of humans is uncertain, though, as monkeys do not become noticeably ill or exhibit any of the life-threatening consequences of COVID-19, even when exposed to high doses of the virus via the nose, lung, and rectum simultaneously. Oh, these poor monkeys.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Poor monkeys.
We got to go save the monkeys, Gons.
I'm looking
as many.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, I'm looking at the thing and it says we're completely offline again. So I don't know. Keep going.
Well, okay. We'll just keep going. We'll see what happens. As many of the most serious COVID symptoms do not appear until late in the disease course, sometimes 4 to 5 weeks following exposure, there is a possibility that we'll not have sufficient time to judge efficacy of a new vaccine, even by the lower standard of symptom control. The older we get, the poorer our ability to respond to vaccines. Resistance to vaccination begins early. Are the population most at risk? Vaccination of the elderly may sometimes succeed by administering repeated doses and by increasing the potency of the vaccine with powerful adjuvants. But these adjuvants can be especially risky for the very old. It seems a folly, then, to rush our way towards a vaccine in 2020 if it is likely to have only limited benefit to the population most in need and may put otherwise healthy people at risk. The risk goes far beyond the dangers of COVID vaccine alone may hold. Public support for vaccine in general is already an issue. Trust in other life-saving vaccines will be eroded even further if COVID vaccine goes wrong, and many more people, children especially, will be at risk if vaccination rates fall. Yes, we are all increasingly longing for an end to the outbreak, but a safe vaccine effective for all those at risk is worth the wait, especially when we have other solutions in hand. We already know from the experience of countries in Asia that the epidemic can be stopped in its tracks with basic public health measures. Widespread testing, contact tracing, and mandatory controlled quarantine, not necessarily in a dismal public health facility as many imagine, but in our own homes with virtual supervision or in a hotel environment. These efforts alone could bring new infections down to almost zero within just weeks. In addition, I believe it will be possible before the end of this year to protect those most at risk from exposure with combinations of monoclonal antibodies or with truly effective antiviral drugs. These drugs could treat those who are ill and prevent further infection. In addition to pursuing a vaccine within a realistic time frame, we should also be throwing our weight behind these other types of medical solutions, which have historically been much quicker to bring to market safely. There is no doubt we need an urgent end to the pandemic. Economies around the world are crashing. Governments are piling up trillions of dollars in debt, and in the U.S. alone, tens of millions are without work or income. But there are still costs that are too great, even when compared to such numbers. When we have solutions to the pandemic in hand, we cannot risk the potential lives lost of rushing a COVID vaccine to market. We must hold dear the central dictum of the medical community. First, do no harm. Trust the chemoprophylactic drug treatment. And in the meantime, let us immediately implement the public health strategies that we know will work today to drive new infections down to nothing. Whew, that was a doozy, Gons, but very interesting, especially coming from scientificamerican.com. I mean, this is a mainstream science outlet.
Yeah, it seems a little more of a rational approach to everything, which is, I don't know, just seems like the whole science community should get behind rather than just pushing out.
We're taking things that are genetically modified organisms and we're injecting them in little kids' arms. We just shoot them right into the vein,
Interesting, especially because, Daddy Fauci has been so insistent on the vaccine is the only way out of this. Here we have a mainstream scientificamerican.com article coming out saying, hey, this is really dangerous, rushing these vaccines. Yeah. I mean, it's finally we're getting a mainstream, recognition that this is not something to rush through and joke about. Now, of course, we're all aware of the broad and deep, theories surrounding vaccinations and whether they are needed at all or whether we should, who should take them or not. There's something in this, There's something in this article, though, that really kind of tipped me off, talking about how, if we get a first round of the vaccine and we give it to 1 million people or whatever it was, 10 million.
It was 100 million.
Sure. And, that's 100,000. That could be 100,000 deaths simply from the vaccine, which would almost equal the amount of deaths from COVID altogether so far, allegedly. Just from the medicine.
Right. Yeah.
And it reminds me of like when a new update comes out for your iPhone, you don't want to be in the first round of people to get the update because there's going to be all the bugs and, kind of security issues. You kind of want to let other people take it first, get the update, and then wait for them to tweak it before you get it, which is kind of what they were saying in this article, which, again, of course, there are stronger stances to take on vaccines in total. But to hear that from scientificamerican.com was pretty interesting.
The other line that I had highlighted here was some vaccines worsen the consequences of infection rather than protect. I mean, I was like, oh my goodness. Wow. That was a crazy line coming from Scientific American. That's what I'm saying.
They basically were listening to all the anti-vax mamas and put it all into a mainstream article. It's wild.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy. And the other part was the older we get, the poorer our ability to respond to vaccines.
Yeah, again, I didn't like how that started at 30. That made me feel real old.
Yeah,
I'm too old for a vaccine, Guns.
You're over that hill, buddy.
Yeah.
Welcome to the dark side of the downslide.
It's all downhill from here, baby.
All downhill from here. Okay, so, but yeah, I thought it was a very interesting article because the more rational approach, and also really, again, like you said, tapping into some of the concerns that vaccines or the community of anti-waxers, is that how you call them now, have been bringing up.
Waxers.
Anti-waxers. Those concerns being at least the sentiments of those concerns being mentioned in the article, I thought was interesting that they would publish this in Scientific American, even though it is considered an opinion piece. So, you know
what I think this signifies more than anything is the mass awakening going on.
Yeah.
The mass awakening. People finally, now we have actually people, authors, writers who are in positions of power. Some might call it privilege to be a writer at Scientific American or to let you put out an opinion piece. But this person is obviously, I don't know, maybe obviously is the wrong word, but it seems to me that this person is a woke, kind of pseudo, I don't want to even put anti-vaxxer on this person, but, vaccine skeptic is we have a vaccine skeptic who put this into mainstream language for people. And I think that's pretty important.
Well, yeah, it goes to show that there is probably a civil war of types between scientism and people that are truly part of the scientific community, or at least people that are trying to push a genuine form of science, just a more real, safe type of science rather than a political science, or not political science in the, the phrase of political science as a genre of study, but more so a scientific dictatorship type that we saw Daddy Fauci mention in the last episode. Science is truth. That's not the approach that this author is taking anyway.
Yeah. And that's what I love.
Which is refreshing.
Everybody's out here, trying to follow the wild path that Fauci is laying. He's been sort of laying these breadcrumbs for 3 months, going back and forth on masks and going back and forth on, gatherings, protests are okay, churches is not okay, et cetera, et cetera. This wild social engineering coming from Fauci. And finally, we have an actual real science respecting person who has no interest in social engineering coming out and being honest about, even if they're not a full on, pseudo anti-waxer.
It just goes to show the politicization of science itself.
Yeah,
the scientific ivory tower itself being politicized.
It was refreshing to have a not so politicized science article.
Yes.
So we appreciate this person. Of course, it goes much deeper than that. But that's when you're in the mainstream and you're aware of everything going on, you kind of got to put it in mainstream language. And I think this person did a great job.
There's another angle to this along the same lines here. The next article I have here, the environmentalists can really get involved in the whole vaccine conversation.
COVID.
Press of AtlanticCity.com. Our view. COVID vaccine development, a new threat to horseshoe crabs. I forgot the vaccine jingle again.
Oh, the horseshoe crabs.
Vaccine.
And it says here, the living fossil of Delaware Bay beaches and caterer to its famous spring shorebird migration may help the development of a vaccine to control COVID-19 and suffer terribly for it. Horseshoe crabs, primitive-looking, oversized bugs of the deep without claws, have blue blood that can be used to detect certain infectious bacteria and endotoxins.
Yeah, very interesting. There's some very interesting material out about these horseshoe crabs.
Yeah, and that's blue blood. Yeah, blue blood not being Democrat blood, by the way. For a couple of decades, 500,000 a year or so have been harvested to extract some of their blood, which until several years ago was the source of the only approved test for these for these contaminants. I have to make the font larger here. I'm struggling to read with my grumpy Gon's eyes.
Yeah.
Vaccine development and production could create enormous demand for this testing method. Longtime South Jersey wildlife biologist Larry Niles told NJ Spotlight, quote, "We expect that there will be a great need for a biochemical to test for contaminants, and it should be synthetic." Niles and David Mizrahi of New Jersey, Audubon?
Mm-hmm. Audubon,
lead a new nonprofit group, the Horseshoe Crab Recovery Coalition, working to restore the 450 million year old species to population levels before overharvesting for blood or for bait and blood. I don't necessarily buy the evolution thing there. Why didn't they evolve?
Well, it's very interesting, and we usually don't shout out to too many podcasts unless they're our friends in one way or another. But I remember back in the day, Radio Lab, the podcast, had a great episode about these little horseshoe crabs.
Yeah. Some scientists say that even though the horseshoe crabs are released after blood extraction, a quarter of more of them die. That's got to be a typo, right? A quarter or more of them.
No.
A quarter of more. Oh, okay.
They're
right,
fragile
right.
little guys.
Okay. Fortunately, an alternative for contamination testing exists, a synthetic product called recombinant factor C, or RFC. Conservationists had hoped the U.S. Pharmacopoeia would modify industry testing protocols to support its use, but instead the Professional Standards Agency said it wouldn't do so until its new compendium is published in 2022. Pharmaceutical corporations needn't wait until them to switch. One of the majors, Eli Lilly & Co., has been using RFC since 2016. And Eli Lilly Associate Quality Advisor Jay Bolden said the synthetic is preferable on the basis of quality, cost, reliability of supply, and ethical concerns about potential harm of horseshoe crabs. New Jersey imposed a moratorium on taking horseshoe crabs in 2008, and their harvest elsewhere for bait is limited by the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Council. The council is protecting their population until the number threatened red knots feeding on their eggs nearly triples. But medical harvesting isn't in the jurisdiction of the fisheries managers. Federal wildlife officials should monitor the pharmaceutical industry's shift to the substitute for horseshoe crab blood. If this use continues to burden the harmless creature from the age of dinosaurs, the U.S. should stop its harvest for all other uses in all states. The need for a COVID-19 vaccine is so great that companies must be allowed to use the blue blood extract if they think that is better. But it would be ungrateful to the horseshoe crab and foolishly ignorant of their potential future value to medical science and the natural environment to let them be decimated. So
poor little guys.
Poor guys getting wasted by
crabs, cute
the
little
science.
Guys. I know. Yeah. I don't really have much to add to that. Very interesting little creatures with magical blood.
Magical blue blood. The elite are always looking for blood.
Yeah, that's right.
Blood.
Yeah, I know. I say we should take a quick little break.
Dude, we've been a long time before our first break.
I know, we've been going a long time and we have so much more to cover. So we're going to have to speed through some stuff. We'll try to get through as many of these things. I think our next segment, a lot of it is just news, not a whole lot of analysis. Of course, there will be some. But, Gons, I say let's take a quick little break.
Let's take a brief break. Come on, jingle.
It's break time. Come on, take a break.
That's right. We're going to take a quick break, anybody, but don't go anywhere because after the break, we have a whole segment on Chaz or CHOP, whatever you want to call it, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone or the Capitol Hill, Occupied Protest.
CHOP.
we got about 4 or 5 stories about that and some Chinese news. So stick around. You're going to want to hear it. But real quick, Gons, I'm going to zoom through these brand new Twitch followers of ours. Thank you guys so much for following on Twitch. It really helps us out. We got a lot of followers since last show, so I'm just going to zoom through. You got your dinger ready?
Dinger's dinging ready.
Okay, here we go. First of all, I want to thank World According to Scooter Lee.
I like
Thank you, new follower Awoke Within. Thank you, Guardian 7603. Thank you, new follower KMCCMDLXXL.
Nice.
Yeah. My Fair Lady 1976.
Like it.
311 JW.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Like the band?
Yep. Flying Tie-Dye.
Ah. Psychedelic.
Yeah. KJ Lorrainers.
KJ?
Happy Talist 2050. Legless Hydra. This one's good. Granny Canary.
Ooh.
We got Granny Canary. Thank you. We got Kaliskak. We got Suze Q 419.
Suze Q.
Noodle Boopoo. We got Gigi and Kitty Jack. We got Zoe Girls 7800. We got Micaiah Mitch 3A. We got Davery Dev. Dan Deman.
Ugh.
Subtle Kane.
The bleep is starting to annoy me.
Don't worry, we're getting there. Wayward World. You can switch it up if you want. Throw like a cat or a chicken in there. We got Call Me What You Will.
I don't have a backup right now.
Okay. Creatine Fart.
Oh, gosh.
We got Brunate.
Laser.
Here's a good one. Just Say No to the Agenda. That's right. We got Loki Dog 1515. Pontoon. Sweetie. Sweetia. Klex Elm. Tibonius Maximus. Insert crypto coins here. Eric the Red 2525. Scaracita 08. Of course, the star of the show today, Daddy Basil's little boy.
Oh, man.
Krillina. Only a few more here. Easy Mac 15. Hot One 711. Mondo Man 03. This is a good one. Joined just for Canary Cry.
Nice.
That's what I like to see. Flying Taco 24MV.
Flying Tacos.
And last but not least, I think we have a refollow here from Sky Scourge Broadcasting.
Very cool.
They're hacking the system. They know how to get a double shout out. Good job, Sky Scourge Broadcasting.
Well done.
There we go. Okay, so thank you to all of our new Twitch followers. Of course, we've been trying to encourage everybody to follow us on Twitch, even if you already follow us somewhere else like YouTube or DLive, something like that. As you've seen today, the stream can get a little sketchy in different places of the internet, so it's always good to have a backup. Follow us, twitch.tv/Canary Cry Radio. Gons will throw that link in the chat there. And if you're watching on YouTube or somewhere else, just please consider maybe just opening up the Twitch link in a different tab. Help out our numbers there because we're trying to hit some goals, and we appreciate you guys so much. And stick around. We're going to be thanking some new producers of the show later on in the show. As well as a new knighting. We have a new knight, Gons, Knight of the Canary Cry Roundtable. Very exciting. So stick around to learn who your new noble knight is of the Canary Cry Roundtable. Am I forgetting anything?
Nothing too crazy. I do want to mention a couple jingles that we've received. One of them was from Andreas. Coming out of a break.
Yes, it's wake up time.
Hey, yo, wake up.
I like that a lot. Yes, we had a couple of contenders for coming out of a break jingle, and we might mix it up here and there. But that one was so soothing.
It was. I like the low.
Yes.
I can't even go that low. I don't have that.
Play it again. Let me hear it.
Yes, it's wake up time.
Hey, yo, wake up.
Yes, it's wake up time.
Oh, you got the pipes for it.
I'm there. Apparently. I'm there, man. Okay, you want to jump into some news stories? I say
yes.
Unless there's something that really stands out, I think we might just do mostly just some reporting on these stories coming out, just to keep everybody apprised of what's going on in Chaz or Chop or whatever you want to call it.
Get in the zone. Capitol Hill Auto Zone.
Chaz. That's right.
Stinks. Oh, you stepping on the stanks.
Sorry, I always forget about the Chaz Stanks.
Come on.
InvestmentWatchBlog.com. Chaz Chop, several bags of human remains found near autonomous zone. This is not good news for the autonomous zone. Oh, you might have to read this one. I'm having a this is a video.
Is it yeah, you're right. It is a video.
I think it's just a video. Why don't you just play it? We'll
also breaking, Seattle police are investigating the discovery of human remains found along the water near Alki. King 5's Britt Moore is there tonight. So, Britt, what do we know right now?
Police are still here trying to piece together where these remains came from, who they did belong to. This area of Luna Park still blocked off here. There's also a tent a few feet away where police are investigating these remains. They were found in several bags near the water here at Luna Park in West Seattle. Police responded after getting a call about a suspicious bag on the beach here, and another bag was also found in the water. Now, Harbor Patrol is assisting Seattle police with this investigation. We know the remains will be taken to the King County Medical Examiner's office, but it does look like they may be wrapping things up or trying to get a good gist of what's going on right now. But there are just a few units here, and that tent is still up, where we're told that's where police are investigating these bags with remains.
Not good, Guns. You know, with the Chaz, the autonomous zone, free of police, and with all the loud noises and nonsense going on. Well, who knows if it's nonsense or not? But the experiment that is Chaz, I would say, if there is a serial killer somewhere on the loose, that would be a definite target.
And melt those babies into candles.
I hope that's not what's going on.
I'm a little spooked by that.
It
whole
is weird.
thing.
Although,
yeah.
You mentioned something funny because it said, human remains, and the first thought you had was not that it was actually body parts in the bags.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It just says human remains. It could just be a couple big bags of excrement.
I doubt it. I doubt the police come out and do all that for that, but you're right. Yeah. It's possible it was just some...
man. There's, you can only fit so many porta potties into the Chaz there, and we all know Chaz stanks, so maybe they're just getting rid of some waste.
It's possible, but yeah, pretty creepy. I don't like. I'm sure this type of thing happens more often than we know about, across the country. Mm-hmm. But anytime it's reported, especially, it's very suspicious, especially when it's concerning a near vicinity to the whole Chaz Chop situation there.
Yeah.
Again, no real true connection other than location. So
yeah, and of course, the media already, who doesn't like the autonomous zone because it threatens the current establishment of elites and law and order, and so the media doesn't want to break away from that too much. It's outside of their established narrative,
right?
So throwing in that bags of remains were found near the autonomous zone. I don't actually know. I would have to look up on a map how close.
I actually.
What was it called? The Luna Park, right?
Luna Park. I don't think it's that close, but maybe somebody in the in the WA area can let us know.
Yeah, or somebody somebody in the chat, do some research for us. How close is Luna Park to the autonomous zone? We'll see if that comes through. Time to go to work, chat people. Okay, let's move on. You want to go to the next one?
Get in the zone. Capitol Hill Auto Zone. Chaz stinks.
MSN.com, another shooting in Seattle protest zone leaves one wounded. Okay, just wounded. The shooting happened late Sunday night in the area near Seattle's downtown that is known as CHOP. Okay, so we got CHOP is catching on a little bit. That's the Capitol Hill Occupied Protest instead of the autonomous zone. I think this is happening for a couple of reasons. When it first came out that it was called Chaz, I kind of had the thought, like, I don't know if, if they'll like having such a masculine name. You don't want, it's too, can't have a man's name for this revolutionary area that goes against everything they believe in. And especially Chaz, it's such a kind of a frat boy name. Now, no offense to any Chazes who listen to the show, but we had to change it. We couldn't have such a masculine name. Now it's called CHOP, which for some reason is better, but also throws another weird twist in the bag of remains. That's so close to CHOP.
That's
I don't know
true.
if I like that.
You're right. You just made another connection there.
Boom. Connecting the dots, people.
Bag of human remains found near CHOP.
Yeah.
Who got chopped?
The shooting happened late Sunday night in the area near Seattle's downtown that is known as CHOP for Capitol Hill Occupied Protest. Police tweeted, adding that one person was at a hospital with a gunshot wound. Person arrived in a private vehicle that was in serious condition. Harborview Medical Center spokesperson Susan Gregg said in a statement, the zone evolved after weeks of protests in the city over police brutality and racism sparked by the police killing of George Floyd, a black man in Minneapolis. The Sunday shooting followed a pre-dawn shooting on Saturday in a park within the zone that left a 19-year-old man dead and a 33-year-old man, ding ding, and a 33-year-old man critically injured. The suspect or suspects in that first shooting fled the scene, and no arrests had been made as of Sunday. Detective Mark Janison had said. It wasn't immediately clear where within the zone Sunday night's shooting took place. The Seattle Fire Department arrived at the scene at 10:46 p.m. and went to a staging area near the zone's perimeter. Fire Department spokesperson David Cuerpo told the Seattle Times. The fire department was soon notified that the injured person has already been taken away. Both victims on Saturday's shooting, whose identities hadn't yet been released, were also transported to the same hospital via private car. Seattle police tweeted that they had heard of a second shooting that they were unable to verify given conflicting reports. Further details about what transpired Sunday night weren't immediately available. It wasn't clear whether anyone was in custody. The CHOP zone is a several block area cordoned off by protesters near a police station in the city's Capitol Hill neighborhood. President Donald Trump, a Republican, has criticized Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkan and Governor Jay Inslee, both Democrats, for allowing the zone. Got to throw that in there. You couldn't just have a normal report about a shooting. You had to throw in some politics there at the end. I don't know why we would be so surprised. But there you go. Some violence going on, of course. A self-policed area, and we do know that there are firearms being carried by individuals. Whether or not, it still remains unclear exactly what the facts around the armed individuals are, but seems that the experimental occupied protest is, not immune from gun violence.
Yeah, not much to say on that. I guess we can just keep moving on because it's
We'll see. This will be interesting because just to theorize, of course, you got to worry about the self-policing of the armed citizens within the zone. Was this a self-policing incident, or was this some anti-CHOP people coming in and causing trouble? You never know. It just depends who's given the details at that point, I suppose.
Guess we just don't know anything coming out of
We just
Chaz
don't
CHOP.
know anything. What's going on in there?
Get in the zone. Capitol Hill Auto Zone. Chaz stinks.
What's next?
Just moving right along here. TheHill.com. Seattle police released new video of response to Chaz shooting.
Quick update. Quick thing real quick. Syrian Soper in the Twitch chat says Luna Park is 34 minutes away from autonomous zone. So I don't know. That's kind of far.
Yeah, but if you chop someone up, how far would you go?
That's true.
Much half-hour drive is nothing.
Much easier to transport when they're in a bag.
Yeah. It says here the Seattle Police Department, SPD, have released video footage of their response to a shooting in the city's Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, Chaz. So the Hill continues to call it Chaz. An approximately 6-block area of Seattle's Capitol Hill neighborhood ceded to protesters following the police killing of George Floyd. Blah, blah, blah. Police said they
repeat that every single article we read.
Police said they received a report of shots fired in Cal Anderson Park within the area. SPD calls the Capitol Hill organized protest CHOP. At about 2:30 a.m. on Saturday, a 19-year-old man was killed and another is in critical condition, according to the latest update from SPD. In their original report, Seattle police said, quote, officers attempted to locate a shooting victim but were met by a violent crowd that prevented officers safe access to the victims. The victims, however, had already been taken to a local hospital by CHOP medics. And the police report said, officers said they, quote, were later informed of this, but the video footage shows that protesters told officers that the victims were no longer on the scene when they arrived. The released compilation includes officers' body-worn camera footage and other open-source videos. After about 7 gunshots are heard, SPD officers are seen gathering and equipping themselves with shields. As they enter the area, a voice on the megaphone is heard saying, quote, please move out of the way so we can get to the victims. Right after, voices can be heard yelling back, quote, they're gone, and they already left. The group of at least 7 police officers continued down the street, encountering more and more people yelling at them, some telling them the victims have already been taken to the hospital and others asking the officers to put down their weapons. Officers continue walking until they reach an area where many people have gathered, after which they return to their cars and leave the scene. Quote, they were faced with a hostile crowd and made a tactical decision to leave the area for the officers' safety and for the safety of the crowd, Sergeant Lauren Truscott, a Seattle police spokesperson, told the Seattle Times, a spokeswoman, told the Seattle Times. Seattle City Council member Lisa Herbold, who chairs the council's Public Safety Committee, told the Seattle Times in a text statement she rejected, quote, the narrative that the mood of the crowd prevented the SPD from reaching the victims. However, she also wrote that she understands and appreciates that CHOP leaders, quote, have been meeting in recognition that this is not a sustainable situation, pointing to, quote, the presence of large numbers of people gathering at night, including some with guns, as a barrier to access by fire department medics. The shooting is still under investigation, as well as reports of another shooting on Sunday night. A 17-year-old boy was injured and treated for a gunshot wound at a local hospital, but additional details have not yet been released. So, again, just some different death, first off, but then some, again, it's hard to tell what's going on for sure unless you're there.
A lot of people dying over there. That's not okay.
That's not good. What happened to Raz? Isn't he supposed to protect people there?
Get on the job, buddy.
Go, Raz. And so anyway, yeah, that's a problem. When the law enforcement, there was a tweet sent out by Raz saying that, hey, there was an injury and the medics didn't show up. And some people took exception to that, especially people that are in the EMT field and stuff, saying, hey, we're not going to just go in there. Number one, it's blocked off. Number two, you got people with guns. We're not going to just show up when there's a threat to the individuals that are actually trying to help. So it just seems like there's a lot of miscommunication and communication breakdown in general.
That's the thing. They're either going to institutionalize or fall apart.
Yeah.
Chaz, thanks. Here we go. Newsweek.com. Chaz protesters fight with a man wearing pin mistaken for pro-police badge.
Oh, no.
Oh, come on, guys. Demonstrators inside the Capitol Hill occupied protest CHOP. Okay, we're back on CHOP. zone in Seattle, Washington, became combative during a weekend confrontation with a man who described himself as an ally supporting their cause. The protesters mistakenly thought a pin the man was wearing showed support for law enforcement authorities, which CHOP opposes, before realizing the pin was actually promoted work done by an animal rescue organization. The group of individuals advanced towards the man, with one knocking his phone to the ground at the start of the altercation. The man was recording a video blog on Saturday as he walked through Seattle's police-free area, so parts of the incident were taped. However, since his camera screen goes dark shortly after protesters approach him, exactly how the confrontation unfolded is unclear. Muffled conversation between the man and protesters seems to suggest that he was not injured and that the confrontation largely de-escalated after the pin's actual message was confirmed. In the video, the man can be heard saying he's allied with the protesters. None of the people involved in the altercation have been identified as of Monday, though the man subject to the encounter appears to be the face of the Yankee Marshals social media accounts. His video was posted to a YouTube channel under that name on Sunday, the Yankee Marshal. Newsweek reached out to the person who owns the Yankee Marshal YouTube account for more details, but did not hear back before publication. CHOP, which also serves as an acronym for a Capitol Hill organized protest, was initially created. Okay, we got that little thing there. We know why it was created. And then it goes into some history of CHOP, which we're all aware of. So, yeah, a guy, see, this is the problem with this mob mentality, man. Yep. It's the mob mentality. It's dangerous and it's not good. People just see a guy wearing a pin and assume he's a cop and, of course, get aggressive with him. That's not cool, man. These people are going to tear themselves apart if they don't de-escalate a little bit more. All this escalation for people inside CHOP is very dangerous. Another reason why, of course, the emergency medical people are scared to go in there. And it's dangerous. I don't like it. Mob mentality. Stay away, people.
Not just mob mentality, but being triggered by the shape of a pin, because it's just the shape of it that triggered people. It's not necessarily what's said on the pin.
And I mean, use some critical thinking. If a cop was going to come in plain clothes and videotape things and try to take down your CHOP, he wouldn't wear a badge. It's dumb, man. People are just dumb.
Yeah, too bad. It really is kind of sad that the exposing of some of the, I don't know, maybe the education system coming home to roost here. The takeover of the education system was a big, communist type of move in America decades ago.
Critical thinking, folks, and you won't kill your neighbors. That's all it takes.
Critical thinking, and you won't accidentally beat up somebody that's on your side.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Do these people need a uniform? Do they need a T-shirt with a little unicorn on it? Is that the only way you're not going to get beat up?
Yeah, probably.
I mean, actually, that's probably a good idea. I said it as a joke, but it's probably in reality what you need to do. Yeah, if you're going to go into CHOP, you need to wear a shirt with a unicorn on it. Like the flag. Did you see the picture of the flag that they raised? Have you seen that one floating around?
No.
Oh, it's funny. There's a Chaz flag, and it's a unicorn, a golden unicorn on a black flag. It says Chaz, which now they got to get a new flag printed because it's called CHOP. And there's a funny picture. I don't know. I haven't done any research into this picture, so, forgive me if I get it wrong. But it's kind of a picture of a group of people all in black, some CHOP citizens, and they are raising a flag that has a unicorn on it. But it kind of is in the style of the Iwo Jima flag being raised. And but instead of sticking the flagpole, onto a hill or something, they are sticking the flagpole into a completely stuffed trash can that has Starbucks cups falling out of it and like plastic bottles and stuff. And they're planting their CHOP flag into it. It's pretty funny. I don't know anything about it. I'm not going to, who knows what that is, but it's floating around. It's kind of funny to see.
I'm waiting for one of these, either Chaz CHOP or another autonomous zone that gets created, even though it seems like other attempts to create them across the states here has failed. I'm waiting for the robot, the cyborg, to step up. You know,
the RoboCops.
Yeah, the RoboCops to come in and either to like take over or to be complicit with the Chaz Chop group, you know, and get their megaphone out, you know.
Rebel.
I'll keep you warm and safe in my people's zoo.
Well, you know what? Chaz Chop would be where the People's Zoo starts.
Exactly.
Yeah, my goodness. All right, let's jump over to some Chinese news.
Yeah, there was a protest right before the protests broke out in the United States. Everyone had their attention on Hong Kong, and just a CNN outlet to show the propaganda here.
Welcome to Chinese News!
This is CNN.com. Ooh. Gotta realize the outlets here, folks. CNN.com. I'm surprised they even still exist. But anyway, China revealed some details of Hong Kong's national security law, and it may be as bad as critics feared.
Uh-oh.
Yep.
Yeah, just a real quick background, just in case it doesn't mention it. So there was the Hong Kong protests that started after Beijing, capital of China, wanted to try them in mainland China, which are they're ruled under two different sets of laws for the most part. And the protests started, got a lot of attention. This was late last year, I believe. And the leader, I forget, they call her like the executive or something of Hong Kong. Basically, the mayor of Hong Kong said, "Oh, just kidding. Okay, we take it all back. We're not going to do it. You can stop protesting now." But of course, by then it was too late. And so now we have an update on what might be happening.
According to CNN. Since Beijing revealed plans to impose a national security law on Hong Kong, defenders of the bill have argued that fears of what it could do to the city's political freedoms and civil liberties are overblown. The law is simply plugging a loophole, they claimed, and no different to what many other countries have on the books. Local officials and prominent businesses threw their weight behind the bill, sight unseen, promising that it would leave the city better off, and in any case, would only affect a handful of people. On Saturday, China's National People's Congress, the NCP, which is expected to pass the law in coming weeks, gave Hong Kong its first glimpse of what it contains. The critics may have been right to be worried. As drafted, the law appears to upend the city's prized independent legal system, allowing Beijing to override local laws while enhancing its ability to suppress political opposition. Most controversially, the law gives Beijing the power to exercise jurisdiction over select criminal cases, raising the prospect that for the first time in Hong Kong's history, suspects could be extradited across the border to face trial and potentially prison time in the mainland. Fears of just that were what drove protests against the extradition bill last year that was proposed by the Hong Kong government. Those protests eventually forced the abandonment of the law, but spiraled into broader anti-government unrest. Beijing says required the imposition of the new national security regulations.
Of course, it's the model for the lockdown. That's what happens. You protest, they give way just a tiny bit, and they use that to impose new, quote, national security regulations, and we are on track for that happening in America.
The For the Remnant and Adam42 along the same wavelength there in the Twitch chat, saying they knew the Chinese were NPCs.
Oh no!
National People's Congress there.
That's racist.
Anthony Dapiran, a lawyer and political analyst based in Hong Kong, described the new law as a broad-based power grab by Beijing over many of the key elements of government and society. Writing on Twitter, he said, new law, quote, effectively sets up a parallel judiciary and takes interpretation and final adjudication power away from Hong Kong courts. In a statement, the city's chief executive, Carrie Lam, said the law would ensure the law and relevant international covenants.
That's how they get you, man. That's how they get you. Don't worry. This law's fine. It doesn't apply to you. You know, if you got nothing to hide, you're fine. Why would you protest against such a audacious overreach of government? You got nothing to worry about. It's only for those criminals.
Yeah, and it goes into a whole bunch of stuff here that we won't necessarily get into for this time here. But, you know, the overall thing here is this might spark another type of protest, but I don't know. It was tough because the last time, didn't they throw out the people that were going to vote against it? Like, didn't they just literally drag them out of the court?
I don't know. I don't recall.
I think something like that took place where the people that are defending Hong Kong's rights were physically removed from the vote.
That would not surprise me.
No, it doesn't surprise me, but that's the kind of thing that can spark, more civil unrest. But I don't know. It just seems like a lost cause. It's really too bad we can't do a whole lot to help the situation over there. But
yeah, well, there you go. China has become such a powerful economic force that our politicians don't want to do anything about it. So, hey, stay strong, whoever needs to stay strong out there.
Yeah, especially the believers out there in China. They're getting a bad deal. We talk about persecution of the Christians and having it be some kind of end times thing, but it's been taking place in China for quite some time, and it's not really reported out in the West here. And Hong Kong being sort of the last bastion of at least a democratic government structure out there in China. Right. And
a democratic experiment that is Hong Kong for China, yeah.
And if it goes down, then, and I'm sure a lot of the wealthy, that's the thing. There's a lot of wealthy Chinese that live in Hong Kong that do commerce around the world, and they're probably just going to leave Hong Kong, and it's probably going to be demolished into a more poor type of area.
I mean, it's already a horrible spot for people who are not rich, basically.
Yeah,
I mean, the middle class in Hong Kong at this point, you get a tiny little one room you get to stay in. Yeah. And, you can look it up. Living conditions in Hong Kong are pretty brutal.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's just going to get worse with all this crackdown. Yeah. Okay, Gans, I see we're running out of time for you. Let's zoom through a quick break, and we've don't go away, anybody. We've got some transhumanism and some cyborg and some money updates and a Nephilim update.
Two Nephilim updates.
A double Nephi update.
Double
Nephi.
Stick
around for that. But Gans, let's take a quick break.
It's break time.
Okay, I've just got 5 new Twitch followers to appreciate here, Gams. You ready?
Dinger is locked and loaded.
Locked and loaded. Here we go. We got Blonde Savant.
Ooh.
Thank you, Blonde Savant. We got It Will Bill. Very good. It Will Bill.
I forgot about that jingle. We should probably bring that one back at some point. It's really apropos.
We've got Truth Fears No Scrutiny. We got A Mysterious Way.
Ooh, like the U2 song?
Sure. And then we have Oh You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet.
All right.
Very creative way of spelling that out. I'm proud of myself for reading that. Well, thank you to our new Twitch followers. Of course, we recommend everybody go follow us on Twitch, if for no other reason than to have a backup, because really, seriously, folks, you never know when we're going to disappear from YouTube. So you want to follow us on Twitch and turn on notifications. And if you can, watch on Twitch. It helps us out quite a bit. Thank you very much. Now, also, we have some new producers of the show to thank, Gans.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. And for those who don't know, here's the thing. A lot of podcasts and things out there, they will ask for your donations, which we did for a very long time. But we subscribe to what's called the value for value model, which is we do the show, we put it out there. We're doing like 8 hours a week now of the show.
Crazy.
And we put it out there. And if you get value at all, if you get any value, you have the opportunity to put some value back in. And just how it works in the real world, if you help fund the show, you're not just a donator. We're not a 501c3. You are a producer. You're financially responsible for the show. So we have some new producers, Gons. Are you ready to hear their names?
My gong is ready.
Gong is gonged. Here we go. Our first new producer is Stephanie.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. And our second new producer is William.
Hey, William.
Thank you very much, William. We appreciate that. They came in as producers on patreon.com/CCNT for Canary Cry News Talk. Again, that's patreon.com/CCNT. And if you want to join the value for value model, you should head there and help us out. Now, we also have another Patreon account for another aspect, another piece of the Canary Cry media empire. And do you have that pulled up, Gons?
I don't have the most recent one. I do have the
I have two here. I can do the other one. So you can also go to patreon.com/Canary Cry Radio, and some new producers there. We have Stacy. Thank you very much, Stacy. You're the best. And we have an upgraded pledge from Ms. Bomb.
Ooh.
Very fun. You guys are the best. And everybody should thank those new producers because they are here to help keep the show going. They are responding to the value for value model. And that means a lot, not just for us personally, because we got kids and kitties to feed, but they are the people paying for the show. They are the producers to the podcast and the live stream that you are appreciating right now. So thank you guys very much.
Yes. And before we get into the knighting, just to mention, another way you can support the show as producers is to send in artwork and or jingles. And we got a couple jingles or songs, show-specific songs. And one of the jingles we recently got was from Martin. And this is for a typo alert.
Typo alert.
Based on all the typos that we saw in the articles in the last episode. It's a good one to pull up.
It really sums up how I feel when I read one of these horrible typos in these news outlets, man. I can't believe it.
Yeah. And also, I see the message from Deezer's channel in our email. He or she, I'm not sure, sent a mama update. And we haven't listened to it yet, but maybe in the next episode we'll get there because I haven't...
Cool. Yeah, we've been waiting for that. Finally, somebody brought in the mama update.
Yes.
We occasionally do stories about moms, and we need to honor them with a mama jingle.
Yes.
So thank you very much. We'll put that in the next show. So thanks for everybody. Like I said, you can support the show in many ways. You got patreon.com/CCNT. You can make art or jingles or songs for the Canary Cry mixtape at the end of the show. Stick around. And what else? We also, if you don't like Patreon, you can go to canarycryradio.com/support.
canarycryradio.com/support.
That's right. And there we have PayPal. If you don't like Patreon, a lot of people don't like Patreon. We got PayPal, cryptocurrency, all sorts of fun stuff. Go there, read all about it. Now, one thing that we started doing 2 episodes ago is we have begun knighting and daming very, very supportive producers of the show to the Canary Cry Roundtable. And who do we got? Who do we got today,
Sir
Guns?
Casey is on deck here.
Sir Casey. Okay. Well, here we go. Here, I decided I don't want to use a sword today. I'm going to use my Viking battle axe. Here, let me pull this out. Very good. Okay.
Still sounds like your sword. I don't believe that was an axe, but
well, okay.
And of course, being a POC,
yes,
Basil, I'm gonna pull out my katana.
That's right. Okay, well, now we want to call up Sir Casey. Please step forward to the Canary Cry Roundtable, where we have a seat for you. Thanks to your generous support in the amount of $1,000 or more, we are proud to pronounce you Knight of the Canary Cry Roundtable. You shall now be known as Sir Casey, Knight Marshal of the Ether, at the Canary Cry Roundtable, where we have the belt of truthful truthiness, the breastplate of righteous righteousness, the custom-fit Birkenstocks to carry forth the gospel of peace, the shield of ferocious faith, the helmet of substantiating salvation, the supernatural sword of the spirit, and of course, adorable samurai babies, infinitely cute kitties for cuddling. And if you're hungry, we have fancy feast, wet food, and of course, fried wormicorns. Welcome to the Canary Cry Knights and Dames Roundtable, to Sir Casey, Knight Marshal of the Ether. Thank you so much. Let's hear a round of applause for Sir Casey. Yes, you're great. Now, Sir Casey, welcome. You are now the third member of the Canary Cry Roundtable. And just for some background for everybody, Sir Casey, has been a long time supporter of all. I'm pretty sure all of the shows we do, Gons.
Yeah, been a while.
Very generous supporter. He's been around for a while. We appreciate it very much, Sir Casey. And I have a note here. Do you want to read the note?
I will read the note. Sure. It says, "Praise to be God for being able to support friends and brothers and to be a part of a great community of believers where things may get heated on our cosmological/political/social ideas and differences, but ultimately we should be praying and loving one another. I'm stoked to call this community my home and to be able to share some secret struggles met with biblical intercession and love and not shaming." Awesome. So there you go. Thank you.
That's very good. And Sir Casey, he's an active member of Canary Cry Community, which is our off Facebook community where Canarians just like you can gather and talk about all the crazy stuff we talk about on the show and more. It's really grown into its own really thriving community. So if you're listening to the show and you want to connect to listeners just like you, go to canarycry.community, a real URL. And one thing that we are also doing with for Sir Casey and other knights that come to the roundtable is we're going to play some jingles for him. What do we got?
He requested the Space Pope Reptilian jingle and the Look It Up jingle. So
good choice.
This one's for you, Sir Casey, Knight Marshal of the Aether.
Space Pope Reptilian.
Look it up.
There you go.
And special shout out to the Canary Cry prayer group that's in canarycry.community.
Yes.
So shout out there. Very good. And if you out there, dear listener, want to work your way towards the Canary Cry roundtable of Knights and Dames, you can support us at patreon.com/CCNT, or you can head over to canarycryradio.com/support. And join up there. Some people like to support in big one-time donations. Some people like to, subscribe to a monthly donation, work their way up. However you want to do it, we are eternally grateful for all of our producers for supporting the show. We couldn't keep doing it without you.
Yeah, so we're stoked that I feel very blessed to have all these nights already. We started this thing and we have these nights lining up. It's very cool. It's very cool to see people.
And it really means a lot. I mean, to keep the show going, we couldn't do it without all of our producers. But we want to recognize and honor and thank. We ready to jump back in?
Let's
speed through here so we can get you out in time.
Yeah, let's end the break.
Yes, it's wake up time.
Hey, yo, wake up.
Yes, like it's wake up time.
It's gotta be biblical.
I'm gonna let you do this because you love the Babylon Bee. You wish you were the Babylon Bee.
I know. Earlier in the Babylon Bee's history, before they sold it to the guy who owns it, sold it. So the BabylonBee.com. Yes. Satirical, Christian satirical website. So keep that in mind as we go through this. Titled The Bee Explains. different viewpoints on the end times. So here we go, people. Don't get triggered. It's satirical, remember? Here we go. Subscribe to No Matter What Kirk Cameron Says. We'll be looking at the three dominant positions: premillennialism, amillennialism, and postmillennialism. Here are some definitions as told by the Babylon Bee. Premillennialism, the belief that the millennial reign, mentioned 6 times in Revelation 20, will be a literal, physical, 1,000-year reign of Christ on earth, usually accompanied by wild-eyed, foamy-mouthed prophecies about the nation of Israel and the hushed whispers about Russia being a bear or dragon or harlot or something. Amillennialism, the belief that the millennial reign, mentioned 6 times in Revelation 20, isn't a millennial reign at all, but rather Christ ruling in the hearts of his people for some weird hippie thing like that. Postmillennialism, the belief that the millennial reign will eventually be ushered in as the gospel spreads throughout the world because humans have clearly been getting better, not worse. Origins, premillennialism, discovered by a sect of ancient druids in the northern England while performing a ceremony underneath the cyclopean smooth rocks of Stonehenge and gazing upon a series of blood moons that miraculously arranged themselves into bizarre non-Euclidean constellations resembling the windswept face of John Hagee. The cosmic eldritch horror whispered the long-forgotten truths of the gospel of dispensationalism to the clandestine gathering, and premillennialism was born. Wow, they really went for it on that one.
Yeah, going after everybody.
This is not how to get your church history, but it's fun anyways. Amillennialism. Theologian Michael Horton was reading Revelation chapter 20 while hanging out listening to Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon in his seminary dorm. He was like, dude, wouldn't it be trippy if the millennium were actually like not a millennium? Whoa, bro. Postmillennium. A really optimistic motivational speaker at the beginning of the 20th century decided the world was getting better and declared that the kingdom of God was almost here. Then some world wars happened, but people were still like, yeah, this is fine. Some famous adherents to premillennialism: Hal Lindsey, John Hagee, Jerry Falwell, John MacArthur. Whoa, Johnny Mac, what are you doing lumped up in the crowd like this? You must be so embarrassed, LOL. Amillennialism. People who can't even with the
can't even. I like that.
People
who
can't even with the historical grammatical hermeneutic sometimes. Postmillennialism. There are literally 3 postmillennialists left on the planet. None of them have read the news anytime in the past 50 years. Oh, snap. How to spot a follower. Premillennialism. In case of rapture, this car will be unmanned. Bumper sticker. Schofield reference Bible tucked under arm. Stacks of books predicting Jesus will come back in 1988, 1989, 1990, etc. Usually wearing a t-shirt featuring wolves howling at 4 blood moons. I want to get that shirt. That sounds like a cool shirt. Amillennialism can usually be found taking hits of some dank kush while reading the book of Revelation and allegorically interpreting everything. Wow, they're not huge fans of amillennial.
No.
They're all stoners, huh? Postmillennialism, tough to find, usually huddled up in a cabin in the wildlands where no news of the impending doom facing our nation and world can possibly have reached them. Well, there you have it, dear reader. We pray that your new wealth of information will prove helpful to you in your walk with the Lord. So there you go, Gons. Does that change anything for you?
I don't know. The amillennialist sounds kind of cool to hang out with.
Yeah, dude knows how to party, man.
Apparently. Anyway, yeah, this is just for fun. But yeah, I don't know. Obviously, there's more nuance, but this is satire.
It's just satire.
They're going after the especially with the premillennialism. There are nuances with the other two, but it's more straightforward. But there are nuances that aren't really attacked. Premillennialism lumped in with pre-trib rapture, dispensationalism. But you know.
So I was raised in the church, Gons, and most of my rearing was focused on premillennialism. What was your first foray into this eschatology?
Well, yeah, like I didn't grow up in the church, but my first exposure after I was baptized and everything was definitely the premillennial or pre-trib view.
Yeah.
However, I quickly realized that there is not a consensus amongst believers as to where they sit,
and it can get heated.
It can get very heated, and most of
heated.
Most of the division lies on the amillennialism versus premillennialism, and then the debates, within the premillennialism, you got your pre-trib and now called pre-wrath, and the post-trib people all arguing with each other. The amillennialists are abound, though. There's a lot more amillennialists out there than you'd expect, and that was kind of troubling to me because my reading of the Bible, just my own studies, was like, hey, it seems that this 1,000-year reign of Christ has definitely not happened the way it's described here in the Bible, but you got a lot of church pastors, especially like mega church pastors, are all taught in the amillennialism school of thought. So, which is I don't know. I tend to disagree with it, but I know it doesn't really change necessarily brother or sister of Christ based on these positions. But
I agree with Rocket Man Sean in the YouTube chat. He says, "I reserve the right to change my stance on the way up."
Oh yeah.
I think that's kind of where is, there's been a lot of years we've been, looking into this sort of thing and really probably too deep of a way. But
well, I mean,
that's kind of where I landed. And a lot of other people in our genre are kind of, that's the way to be.
I still think the pre-wrath view is, in terms of a Bible study, makes the most sense to me. But again, I also reserve the right to be wrong, especially on the way up. Nobody is forward to the end of humanity to overcome sickness, aging, and death. It sounds bitterly ironic now in the midst of a global pandemic, but not long ago, some of the most forward-looking people in the world estimated that, quote, in the middle age now, or people in middle age type of look at conversation politically, and it just seems like it's creeping in more and more and more, and this is just another example of that. Again, we don't have the whole article, but just to let you guys know that the topic is making its rounds, and it is becoming more and more common in people's view, especially since something like a pandemic would spark a technocratic solution or a transhuman solution, if you will. And actually, we didn't necessarily mention it in the last episode where we quoted Anthony Fauci, Daddy Fauci, saying, science is truth. But that religious statement of science is truth is really the driving philosophy of transhumanism, that science will eradicate death one day. And of course, when we're talking about eradicating death, we're talking religious conversation. We're talking directly as to what Jesus solved on the cross. So that's why we bring it up, is because that's why I've been looking at it pretty much a couple of years after I was saved, was because it's a very interesting narrative if you compare the end of death, what that means scientifically and technologically, as opposed to supernaturally, given, the blood on the cross and everything else. So just wanted to give you guys a heads up. Wall Street Journal writing about transhumanism and looking forward to the end of humanity. And,
I know, isn't it so crazy to think about? When we started podcasting, the transhumanism topic was the wildest, craziest, fringiest thing we could possibly talk about, and now it's in the Wall Street Journal.
I think our very first episode of Canary Cry Radio, episode 001, we talked about transhumanism. Like that was really our launch 9 years later, almost 10 years later. And Wall Street Journal.
2012, of course, people had been talking about it before we got to it.
Of
but,
course.
That's what started us on it. And my gosh, look at where we're at.
I know.
Okay,
and it's even more intense because I don't know about you. I don't know about you, but
are you ready to become cyborg?
Stop this madness. I got an article from biometricupdate.com, which is a crazy website to exist, but here it is. The article is titled "Back to the Ballots for Biometrics in Africa. 1 million dead on Ghana electoral roll. Zambia rushes biometric verification." And of course, as we know, the future happens elsewhere, Gons, and only if it works there do we import it into America here. And so we've been talking about biometrics when it comes to population control, tracking, and of course voting. So here we go. Back to the ballots for biometrics. Nope, that's not it. Sorry, I'm lost. Okay, here we go.
That's right.
Back. Was that right? Okay.
Yeah.
Back to the ballots for biometrics news headlines across Africa this week. In Ghana, Parliament has approved a measure that will recognize only the biometric Ghana card and passport as acceptable ID for voter registration. Hey, you can't have voter registration in Ghana. That's racist. In Zambia, online voter registration is in the cards. Nigeria looks like Huawei for border management. And in Kenya, Huawei, of course, humongous Chinese population in Nigeria and other African places. So Huawei, of course, is in the lead. Nigeria looks to Huawei for border management, and in Kenya, a politician is reprimanded after biometric attendance records showed he had missed too many sittings. Mm-hmm. Oh man, biometrics keeping people in line over there. Ghana, 1 million dead voters, parliamentary approval of registration. And I'll just kind of zoom through. This is kind of a collection of headlines, like I just read you. A constitutional instrument to make the Ghana card and Ghanaian passport the only legal ID credentials acceptable for verifying people in the new round of biometric voter registration has finally come into effect, reports GhanaWeb. The constitutional instrument CI-126 was approved by a slim majority and has come under criticism for doing away with the birth certificate. Birth certificate as a means of identification while bringing in the passport. Yeah. The instrument had previously been withdrawn, et cetera, et cetera. So they're up in the game over there in Ghana. Now, no longer is your birth certificate enough to register to vote.
You kind of skipped over the part where they said that they removed the driver's license as a form of ID as well. Previously, and now the birth certificate. So they're really just. It's a whole. If it's a model for what we might face here, they're really going after it. And
all biometrics, no way around it.
All biometrics, and one of the chairs of the Constitutional, Legal, and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, Ben Abdallah, had said that the checks for acquiring a passport are much more rigorous than the birth certificate, making it more difficult for foreigners to fraudulently acquire. So, fraud being the problem, reaction, solution, right there in play.
Yes. And, of course, let it be stated and known and recognized that we are not intimately familiar with everything going on in Africa and specifically Ghana. So, I'm not here to say what's best for Ghana. We're just looking at the
tech.
Looking at what's going on around the world and how it might come to us and how that affects us. So, maybe Ghana needs this. I don't know. But next, we got Morocco, the new generation of ID cards for government services available to minors. Now we're getting the kids in on it. Yep. As Morocco's new biometric ID cards become available. Oh, man, biometric ID cards. I just don't like reading that. Yeah. As Morocco's new biometric ID cards become available, legislation is being updated, which will allow 16-year-olds to apply, and even children with parental permission, reports Morocco World News. Children would have to renew their cards at the age of 12 and add their fingerprints. Yeah. People carrier previous versions of ID are not required to move to the new format, but the biometric cards are intended to create secure access to government services as enshrined in the new legislation. All right, so we got kids.
This is very much the Agenda 2030 UN Sustainable Development thing. Under one of their plans was to have identification for everybody born in the entire world. So this is definitely in line with that, moving in that direction.
And if we looked into, this is, again, being clear, I'm not, we would have to look into this a little bit more. But I can almost guarantee that this is all being paid for by not those specific countries. These are experiments being tried out over there, whether they need it or not. Maybe they do, but I almost guarantee they're being paid for by billionaires around the world who have an interest in biometrically tracking everybody. Okay, moving on to Zambia. Electoral registration period halved due to COVID-19. I'm going to skip that one. That one's pretty straightforward. Yep. Nigeria border systems commence contract for frontier management with Huawei. So a cell phone company is contracted for frontier management. Mm-hmm. The Nigeria Immigration Services border management strategy is coming into effect as the Midas is operating in all the country's international airports. This announcement was made by the Minister of Interior, Rauf Aregbesola, who also discussed how Nigeria's borders are porous and artificial, and stated that the NIS is working with Huawei to develop live border monitoring. With your porous borders and Huawei involved, it's going to be a lot of cameras, probably a lot of drones, and maybe some satellites involved.
The interesting quote from Aregbesola, he's quoted as saying, "Let me be clear and remind us of the fact that our boundaries are artificial." And those of us who have traveled or are related to communities at the border posts, I know of a particular village, and it goes on. But interesting that one of the Minister of Interior is saying, like, "Hey, borders aren't real."
That's some New World Order speak.
Definitely some New World Order speak, and Huawei getting in on it.
Moving on to Kenya, Nairobi leader suspended over biometric attendance record. Biometric attendance records led to the 4-month suspension of member of County Assembly, Nairobi City, Abdi Guyo, reports the Daily Nation. Guyo, the leader of the majority Jubilee Party, will also lose all privileges of MCAs during the suspension, which was triggered after he missed 11 consecutive sittings.
You need biometrics to track his attendance, though? Like, come on.
I don't know. Apparently.
Like, what in the world?
I don't know how they're getting away.
What kind of excuse is this? It's like,
you can't
you're not paying attention? Or
you can't get your buddy to dress up in your suit and carry your ID card anymore.
Oh, yeah, maybe that's what it is.
Sit in for you.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe
you actually got to show up.
They can't do the body double trick anymore. But there you go. That's some Wakanda propaganda going on.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. I forgot about the whole Wakanda connection.
Yeah.
The Afrofuturism. That's Afrofuturism at work, folks.
It is.
Listen to the last episode if you missed it.
It's definitely a lot more tangible than you'd think in Africa.
Yep.
So
no, that's very good. I'm glad you threw this in here.
Yeah.
Because it is tangible progress towards the Afrofuturism, Wakanda, unfortunately, New World Order, paid for by elites situation.
That's why you listen to the show. We bring all different things here.
What's next?
We have a money update here.
$100 billion. I don't have any money.
Blockchain.
Wow.
A triple entendre. Coindesk.com.
Triple jingle.
PayPal, Venmo to roll out crypto buying and selling. Sources say.
Wow.
Oh.
Big deal.
Big deal. Fintech giant PayPal plans to roll out direct sales of cryptocurrency to its 325 million users, according to 3 people familiar with the matter. I'll just say the quote here. My understanding is that they're going to allow buys and sells of crypto directly from PayPal and Venmo. A well-placed industry source told CoinDesk they're going to have some sort of built-in wallet functionality so you can store it there. It is unclear which or how many cryptocurrencies would be available. The industry source said they expected PayPal, quote, would be working with multiple exchanges to source liquidity. A second source confirmed that PayPal is looking to offer buying and selling of crypto and said the service could be expected in the next 3 months, maybe sooner.
Wow. Buy your Bitcoin now, folks, because one of the biggest
might go insane.
One of the biggest criticisms of cryptocurrency is that, it's not widely available to be used. But once PayPal, the most accessible, I'd say, now there's some others like Venmo and such, which
Venmo's part of PayPal. They're owned by PayPal, I think. So.
Oh, did they buy them? Yeah,
I think
there you go. Okay. So, now when it's so easy to pay your buddy, crypto for that grilled cheese sandwich, that's solving the problem of liquidity and ease of use. So we're I'm not super special for this prediction, but the prediction being that this will give a nice little bump to your your crypto holdings. So there you go. We are not financial professionals. Don't take my advice. But this is going to be a game changer for cryptocurrency. Bitcoin go to moon. Oh, there it is. I missed that one.
Missed it. And we got a couple Nephilim updates for everybody. And where's my Nephilim update jingle? Oh no, did I not prepare the Nephilim update jingle? That would be really
We'll wait,
bad
Guns. End the stream.
I'm canceled. I'm canceled for not having the Nephilim update jingle ready.
Nephilim update. Nephilim update. Nephilim update.
Do you want to do this first one? Or you want me to do? I'll do both of them. If you want me to.
It's yours.
Okay. Sci-fi.com. Great source here. Paleontologists find enormous prehistoric egg laid by late Cretaceous marine reptile.
This is how it starts, man. This is July 2020. We get the robot. The dinosaur eggs hatch, and that's the end of it.
Well, also, it's a reptile, which means...
Space Pope Reptilian.
Oh, my
gosh. Like our Sir Casey was mentioning here. Entering the record books as the second largest animal egg ever found on Earth. Wow. Paleontologists at Chile's National Museum of Natural History and the University of Texas at Austin have identified a giant fossilized egg belonging to an extinct marine reptile that once swam the waters of Antarctica.
Ooh.
Some 68 to 68 million years ago, allegedly. I think it's interesting that they found it in
Chile. Chile found it, and then there'll be in Antarctica where it's really chilly.
Gosh. Mer. The supersized Cretaceous fossil, first discovered back in Antarctica in 2011 by Chilean scientist David Rubilar Rogers and his colleagues, was originally nicknamed The Thing due to its strange, deflated football appearance. Now this rare relic has been officially named Antarcticulithus bradii.
So creative.
And represents the first fossilized egg unearthed in Antarctica. And there's a picture there, diagram that shows how ginormous it is. And I mean, it's big, but it's not super, super big. It's like the size of a football, I guess. 11.4 by 7.9 inches and weighs 14.33 pounds.
Wow. Really? 14.33, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Wow, they just can't help themselves.
They can't. Quote, it was weird enough that they decided to collect it, even though it wasn't clear what it was. It definitely wasn't bone, but it was strikingly unusual, explained Clark. Quote, many turtles, snakes, and lizards lay eggs with soft, flexible shells. The Thing is the largest soft-shelled egg ever by a long shot. So there you go. That's our
They're
first.
Gonna clone. We're going to get a clone.
I know. That's our first Nephilim update, and we got another one.
Nephilim update. Nephilim update. Nephilim update.
This is the nationalgeographic.com. The picture of a hairy man. Exclusive. Skull from perplexing ritual site reconstructed. The Scandinavian man lived a long life 8,000 years ago before his skull was selected for a still inscrutable ceremony. He's physically imposing, somewhere in his 50s, with a wiry gray beard disappearing into his wild boar cloak. His broad chest is dabbed with chalk, and his pale blue eyes are narrowed, as if he's spotting something in the distance. Dubbed...
I know what...
What?
How do they know what color his eyes are?
I was going to say, I don't know. They must have figured it out by DNA samples or something. Dubbed Ludwig. He lived in northern Europe some 8,000 years ago. Maybe they just assumed he's white, blue-eyed because it was Europe.
It's in Sweden, yeah.
Too bad Ludwig can't talk, though, because researchers have many questions for him.
Jordan. That's where it's found.
This is the first facial reconstruction from human remains excavated about a decade ago in south-central Sweden at
Canary,
a curious archaeological site where sometime around 6,000 BC...
I'm sorry, I'm wrong. I believe a K is a sh sound.
Oh, so
it'll be Shiniljöden.
Shiniljöden.
Yeah.
Animal and human bones have been deliberately arranged as or on a submerged stone platform in the center of a small lake. Shaniljöden made international headlines in 2018 when researchers published a report on the excavation noting that wood preserved inside 2 of the skulls indicated that at least some of the skulls had been mounted on stakes.
Gons, I have to interrupt you. We do have a viewer from Sweden.
Okay.
Lotta Escato. Help us pronounce that. I'm trying my best.
Yes.
Maybe pop it in.
Shaniljöden. That's my attempt. Shaniljöden. I'll just keep going here. It was found on some stakes, which means ritual, and then quote, it's a very fascinating site to work with and quite complex, said Fredrik Hallgren, director of the Shaniljöden project from Sweden's The Cultural Heritage Foundation. The facial reconstruction was commissioned by the Charlottenborg Slott, a museum in the nearby town of Motala, where it goes on exhibit tomorrow. The museum is housed in a 17th century manor house built by Count Ludwig Wirch Löwenhaupt, ancient Ludwig's reverse namesake.
So this was a Nephilim they found and reconstructed?
Close enough, right?
I got to give props to Adam42 in the chat. Way earlier in the show, he referenced "Oops, I Married a Nephilim," which is my it's going to be my exit strategy. It's the TV show sitcom that I invented on the Joyspiracy theory.
Yes. How's that going, by the way? Is it making progress?
We're still in pre-pro. Still in pre-pro. A lot of pre-pro. Still looking for my looking for my connections in Hollywood to help me get that one made.
Yeah. Okay. So it says here researchers were able to obtain DNA data from 6 of the 9 skulls, enabling them to determine the skin, hair, and eye color of individuals. There you go. Some Mesolithic Europeans likely had darker skin tone than modern inhabitants, a fact reflected in the recent recreations of 2 women who lived in Scandinavia around the time of Ludwig or later. While Ludwig is light-skinned and light-eyed, DNA from a female skull that will be reconstructed next year indicates that she was blonde but darker-skinned, attesting to the genetic complexity of Scandinavia at the time. Grafman is eager to see how Ludwig is received by the 21st century residents of Motala and views the reconstruction as a way to build bridges between people across space and time. Quote, that's what we try to do in all kinds of different areas, whether it's like this reconstruction or when we read books about other people or we see art that connects us, she says. I think it's important to find the connections between people or the strange creatures that lived a long time ago.
Nephilim update, Nephilim update, Nephilim update.
Well, there you go, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Now, remember us, because we work exclusively on the value for value model. We have turned down all offers for advertisement on the show because we do not believe in gaining your trust and your attention and turning it around and selling it for our own personal gain. But that means that we rely on our producers, which are people who financially support the show or help with production by creating art or jingles or music, show-specific music for the Canary Cry mixtape at the end of the show, so stick around. But I want to thank all of our new producers and congratulate again Sir Casey, Knight Marshal of the Ether. Thank you so much for your support over the years. You are the man. And we will continue to knight and dame our loyal and generous producers. Remember, if you want to start your journey towards knighthood or damehood, you can go to patreon.com/CCNT for Canary Cry News Talk. Sign up to support the show. Or you can head over to canarycryradio.com/support.
CanaryCryRadio.com/support.
That's right. And there you can sign up through PayPal for a monthly support, or you can do a one-time donation. We've had some very generous one-time donations come through, and I'll just tease, we'll have some more nightings. At least one more nighting, I think, one or two. So thank you very much for that. And again, that's canarycryradio.com/support. You can give through PayPal and cryptocurrency. If you do send us cryptocurrency, remember, you got to send us an email if you want credit for it, because it's a pseudo-anonymous, and we're not hackery enough to track you down. So thank you very much. I want to thank everybody who created the jingles today. Am I missing anything, Gons?
I think we're pretty much there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, remember, you can also support the show if financially is not in the cards for you. We totally understand. But you can also help out the show, by leaving a rating and a review on our RSS feeds on the Apple Podcast Player or Stitcher or Spotify or wherever you listen to the podcast version. And if you haven't yet, remember to subscribe to the podcast just in case you miss a live stream or something like that. The show still goes up and it's there forever. So just search Canary Cry News Talk on whatever podcatcher you use, and leave a rating and a review. I think we'll read a couple next show, Gons, because there's been some good ones lately.
Some good ones coming in.
So do that. We'll read it on the show. It'll be super fun. But also, remember that one of the best ways to spread the show is simply by sending an episode to a friend or loved one, or just letting them know, word of mouth. Hey, a lot of people in your life are starting to wake up, starting to question the reality that they've been sold. And a great way to help them along that journey is to hook them up with Canary Cry News Talk. We're good here. We're friendly, and we're a great start for those who are waking up. So make sure to share. Word of mouth is the best way to spread the show. And remember, if you want some advice on how to share it with your friends or family, you just walk right up to them, you grab them by the cage, and then you shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
Just ask Noah. That's right, folks. Thanks again for listening to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Remember, you can get all the links to the articles that we read on the show by going to canarycrynewstalk.com in the show notes there. It's very valuable to make sure you grab all those links, read the articles for yourselves, and share them with the people who need them. And remember to tell them to come and listen to the show, both live stream and on the podcast. Thank you so much. Remember to follow us at twitch.tv/Canary Cry Radio. And we will be back. What's today, Guns? Monday?
Monday.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, it's only Monday.
I know.
We'll be back on Wednesday for
Twitch Blackout Day.
We apologize if that offends anybody, but we got kids to support. So thank you very much. We will be here on Twitch Blackout Day on Wednesday. So make sure to tune in. But until you do, remember to think outside the cage.
We will launch a new age.
And melt those babies into candles.
If you're an artist, you're a musician, email us at canarycryradio.com.
In the future, humans will be confined in a people's zoo.
People, I'll keep you safe and warm. Keep the cameras on in my people.
I want to shake things up, shake things up. I want to shake things up, shake things up.
Leave the bird alone.
I want to stir up some controversy. I want to rattle a few cages. I want to rattle a few cages. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. A crusader for the little guy. Little guy. Little guy. Well, we'll see about that.
Whatever, Illuminati.